Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
missions in Nigeria.
Tracking each step in missions, this is Footsteps from TWR. Your host is Andy Napier.
TWR's Harry Beddig joins us with some very encouraging listener responses from Nigeria. Harry?
Using a powerful AM transmitter in West Africa, TWR broadcasts the Through the Bible program to Nigeria in 3 languages. A listener to the Yoruba Through the Bible says, I always appreciate God for the grace given me to accept the Lord Jesus Christ through your programs. And he's not the only one. According to Yoruba listener response reports, there were a little over 500 decisions for Christ in 2023.
Wow, 500 in 1 year.
Yes, and that's not all. A second Through the Bible language broadcast via TWR to Nigeria is Igbo. Listeners appreciate the systematic Bible teaching. One says, as I keep listening to the exposition of God's Word through radio, I keep asking what our pastors have been doing. Such enormous truth has been hidden from us for a long time. Thank you for opening my eyes to the Word. A third language TWR uses is the Hausa language. This is one of the languages spoken by the Fulani, a nomadic, primarily Muslim people group. Perhaps you've heard about the Fulani herdsmen persecuting and even killing Christians in West Nigeria. Well, some of the Fulani are coming to the Lord. One listener reported the following. There are some Fulani people who converted to Christianity through the program. Currently, they're building a church. Please pray for them to stand firm.
We will. Thanks, Harry. To learn more about TWR's radio outreach into Nigeria, go to twr.org/footsteps.
Footsteps is a production of TWR.
Hi, friends. I'm Allie Domersant, and I host a podcast called Snapshot Testimony. We all have pivotal moments in our lives, moments when the hand of the Lord is obvious and personal, whether it's an unmistakable answer to prayer or the unforgettable day of salvation. Snapshot Testimony brings you inside these unique moments when a life is transformed by the power of Christ. Tune in as I interview guests from all walks of life about their snapshot moments. Listen on your favorite podcast app or go on YouTube and watch full video interviews.
Moody Radio Cleveland, broadcasting since 1958. WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and everywhere with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
I just wanted to say thank you for being here.
Donald Trump is the first American president to stand trial and be found guilty in a criminal case. It's 6 o'clock. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. The New York jury has found him guilty on all counts in his hush money case. He could face 4 years in prison, depending on the judge's sentence, which will happen later. The judge has the discretion to reduce his sentence to a fine, probation, or supervision. A former teacher at the George L. Forbes Early Learning Center in East Cleveland has pleaded not guilty to charges of assault involving a 4-year-old victim. The young student reportedly told his mother following the April 25th incident that 35-year-old India Bryant had slapped him in the face. Bryant was later fired. Parma police say 3 men in their 20s are under arrest for taking and damaging the city's iconic flamingo statue. Police say the statue was taken from its place next to the City of Parma script sign on West Ridgewood Drive at about 5 a.m. on Saturday. Police located the damaged statue about 50 feet away. I'll have sports and weather in just a moment.
Music is an important way that we can joyfully worship the Lord. This month, take your family on an exploration of music in the Bible with Today in the Word's Family Study. This kid-friendly devotional will help keep your entire family grounded in Scripture and includes hands-on activities to help your children understand why music is a wonderful gift from God. Get your free Today in the Word devotional and download the free Go Along Family Study at todayintheword.com.
In sports, the Dallas Mavericks will now challenge the Boston Celtics for the NBA Finals. beginning on June 6th. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Sunny skies with highs today in the mid-70s. At last check, clear skies, 44 degrees in Cleveland, 42 Akron and Canton, 45 degrees in Lorain, Elyria.
It's time for your moron moment.
With summer travel season just around the corner, you'll want to know what medicines you're taking in case you run out while on the road. Dr. Andrew Mellon, the Chief Medical Officer of SureScripts, recommends carrying a complete list of your pills and a cell phone photo of your meds as well. He says that'll make it a lot easier in case you need more medication or end up at an urgent care or emergency room while on the road. He also says to pack extra medication and to put all your pills in a carry-on and not in checked luggage that could go missing. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 6:03. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron Eastwood.
Broadcasting live from the Bob Divine.
.606, that was Mercy Me, and Follow-Up Friday is upon us. We got the whole team together. We got Ron Eastwood. Thanks for your great newscast, buddy.
Oh, great. You're welcome.
Lauren's here.
Ciao.
Oh, she's European Lauren today.
Yeah.
And Daria, hi.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm wondering, why am I a little aflutter here this morning?
I wonder.
Oh, it's because my wife Sarah's here. She's struggling with
Help
headphones.
Sarah. Help her.
Let me help you. Come here.
I couldn't hear anything in them.
Here, let me help you. There, you do that, and then you got your little volume. Is that better?
I can't hear anything.
Now I can whisper to you. You can't hear it. Turn up that thing. Turn up that thing.
We should have figured this out before we went on the air.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, I had a great time yesterday, at the pregame show for the Lauren Daigle concert.
Oh,
you didn't stay for the whole thing.
You were the warm-up, huh?
Well, no, not in any sense. Me going to things like this is always a bit of a, like, if you could watch it, you'd enjoy it. It's a bit awkward. The whole process, the finding the parking, the getting all the things. And I created like this little cart where, I didn't create it, but we have this cart where I can put all these things. But we have the pop-up banners that are kind of long and weird. I had to find a way to, you go to a parking ramp and you got to get all the things in for your little display for your radio station.
Yeah.
But it's so far in to Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. You can't go do multiple trips. I got to make one trip in here because you're going to walk like 16 miles once you get in there. And just walking around with this thing, it's like, what's this guy's problem? You know? And I went in the wrong door.
Oh, no.
It's hard being you.
Explain the look you're giving me and everyone else in the live stream. Go ahead.
I sent you an email with instructions on how to get in. And I said, do you have the instructions? And yeah, you go in that one door and then there it is. And you said you had it.
I printed off the instructions.
Yeah.
I followed I went to the ramp they said I should go to for the Lauren Daigle concert. I went to the direction they said. I'm like following the directions. And then you're supposed to go into this like black area doorway. And there's a sign outside that says media.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, it doesn't say staff, but I sure am media. If I've ever met someone in media, that'd be me. And I go in the door. And I'm like, yeah, I was told I'm here for the radio station. Like, oh, this isn't where you go in. It was the VIP entrance for tickets for like people that have VIP passes.
Oh.
And they're supposed to know you go in the media entrance. Explain. That's not a Brian problem, is it?
Was it new signs or was it like permanent signs at Rocket Mortgage? It was
sign
new.
like a board you stick outside of the door by itself. So that's not totally a Brian problem.
No.
You feel a little better for me, Sarah?
I do.
Oh, thanks. But then there was the funny story that happened there. I go in, there's a couple of guys working security in there. Like, that's not the right place. So you go down there or whatever. What radio station with? I was like, oh, Moody Radio. And the guy's like, oh, Moody, that place is great, man. Love Moody Radio. Listen to that show all the time. I was like, oh, thanks, man. And he kind of steps outside as I'm to show me where to go. And he goes, hey, say hi to that morning show team. I love them. And I go, I think his name is Willie. And I go, well, yeah, I mean, I will because I'm Brian. And he kind of freaked out. I felt pretty cool in front of my daughter, Sophia, who was with me. And then he told me like the coolest story. He's deeply connected to City Mission and loves City Mission. And he said his first connection to Moody Radio was in the late 80s, where he had like a Walkman, essentially, listening to the radio, and he's hanging out, doing his thing. He's between jobs, feeling kind of down, not knowing what to do. And he starts surfing stations on his Walkman, and he gets to one, and he's listening, and he goes, well, what do you know? Richard Pryor got saved. Like he's listening to somebody talk about their faith, and it sounds just like Richard Pryor. And he's like, I can't even believe this. Wow. And he ends up going, he's on his way to City Mission, goes in there, starts talking to people, talks to one guy, goes, I can't believe I'm listening to the radio. Richard Pryor just got saved. And the guy starts asking questions. It's Tony Evans. He was convinced that Richard Pryor was like giving his testimony on the radio.
Oh my.
And it ended up being Tony Evans. And from there, he's just become a super fan of the radio station, been listening for decades and loves it, loves the team.
I'm surprised you told him it was you. I would have suspected you'd be like, yeah, I'll tell him.
Well, I mean, that's what I said. And I started walking away and I was like, I can't just do that. I was like, well, just so you know, I just people say stuff, you know, I love that station, you know, and they don't know what station it is or whatever. And I didn't want to embarrass my daughter. She thought she got a kick out of it. It was a lot of fun. And then I went to the correct entrance and continued
and you found your spot.
To be awkward. Yeah, continued. It was a whole thing.
The setup was very cute. You did a good job.
It was?
Yeah.
I was nervous about that.
Yeah,
usually I have Daria to like figure out cuteness. It's not my specialty.
You usually let me do all the unpacking and all the cutesifying of the table.
You forgot the carrying, too.
Yes, I did the carrying, too. So I was actually kind of proud of you.
I look busy.
Hey, you guys need any help? Just wanders around.
At Renew last year, he and Josh just kind of watched me do this table.
Unreal.
And then I was like completely set up. I'd carried all these boxes. Yeah. And Brian's like, you want any help?
I've seen them do that to Kelly repeatedly at Walkworthy
sir,
and
I am
Renew.
done.
Repeatedly.
My wife seems shocked by this.
Yeah, very shocked. It's like how every dinner evening would end. Dishes would be washed, and you'd be like, "Do you need help?"
Everything's already done.
Yeah.
You haven't heard of that strategy? Ron, I bet you're good at that.
Oh, no. I dive right in.
Ron's a helper.
I am a helper. Not to brag, but
sometimes
Brian's an avoider at all costs.
Me? I also, I'm just sometimes a little aloof. I don't always pick up on all the cues. You could agree with that?
Yes.
So there you go.
Still trying to find ways to communicate to you during the show.
You still try?
Yeah, maybe I'll have to pull up a Word document on our shared screen and just type on it in huge letters.
Well, that's a good idea.
We need one of those scrolling banners behind your head that you can type messages in, like it flashes.
Yes.
I get very focused, and then everything else is gone.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's like when Sarah's trying to talk to me at home. You've learned how to get my attention.
Yeah, just say, put down your phone or put down whatever.
Brian,
and
are you
look
listening to me? What? You guys
At
would
least you're
laugh too.
honest.
Right. No, I'm not pretending. Yeah.
I'm not pretending to listen.
No, I'm totally not hearing it.
And if he misses something, he doesn't get angry and say, you didn't say that. He's like, oh, I guess I didn't hear you.
But no, you guys would laugh too. I packed up all my things to leave, right, from our little table at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, and it's the start of the concert, but I'm leaving because I had to go to bed, guys. Someone's got to. I need beauty sleep,
I stayed up way too late last night.
And it's a big circle, and I remember walking a long way to once we came in this weird side entrance to get to where we were. And I got my thing, and I have to avoid people because the banners are real long, and so
they have straps that you can put them on your shoulder, but
that hurts after a while. It's a long walk.
Okay.
How else do you propose to carry them?
Well, you could set it on the cart, right, so it's tilted and you're walking.
Not a huge cart.
And so I'm looking for the same thing that I came out of.
Yes.
Walking. And I got this giant thing, avoiding people, going past all the employees, and I realize, oh no. I went all the way around the circle. I could see the table again. And then it was the walk of shame halfway around Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse because, again, I stand out.
They saw you coming back with your little wheelie
I had
box.
just put my head down because I knew there was so many people and employees that are like, what is this guy doing?
And you didn't ask for help. They're like, just let him be.
I was so afraid I'd miss it again. So I went a little slower. But the difference was the doors where I came out of were closed now. So it looked different.
Okay.
So, Sarah, how was the concert? Did you and the girls enjoy it?
We did very much. It was very good. So we were planning on trying to beat the crowd and leave at the last song before encore. And there was no encore. So we stood up and started walking out, and then the rush of people started
That's
running.
the worst.
So yeah, it took a while.
But you also realized last night, and I asked her permission to share this, but you realized last night you are somewhat turning into your mother.
I did realize that last night, yeah.
What happened to make you think that?
Well, just I've been spending more time with our oldest, and now that she's an adult, it's like, oh, so this is what my mom feels like when I call her. And our seats were kind of on the side, and I was sitting so that when they turned, they were behind me facing this when we were facing the stage. And I was like, can I just sit? Can we switch spots so that you guys are in my sight as I'm looking at the stage? And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's such a my mom thing.
Because I just want to sit and look at you.
Yeah.
Aww.
Doesn't that feel like a mom thing?
Yeah,
to say?
You want to watch them enjoy the concert.
Yeah.
Totally.
I get it. I'm turning into my mother.
That's so cute.
So
Brian's
cute.
like, I'm glad you said that.
I don't see it. It's not there.
Right.
All right, it is 6:16. It's Follow-Up Friday. We got lots to talk about, many things to follow up on. We're going to review the week's topics, but we want to pass over the show to you. Last week, we got a lot of calls. I was pressing you to disagree with me because that's fun. It's enjoyable.
I handed Daria a run sheet this morning. She said, we didn't get a lot of comments this week. I really like when people disagree.
Daria likes it.
So, come on.
Disagree.
I kind of enjoy it when people get mad and get fired up.
We had
so
people...
easy to disagree with you, Brian.
I know.
Yeah, it's very easy.
I know. So what are you doing? Someone actually called last week to live try to find a way to disagree.
She couldn't.
And she couldn't.
And it was fun, but also kind of disappointing. So what are you doing? Give us a call. We're going to read the topics, but give call. You could even disagree with how I say that, and I'll yield to you.
We have new giveaways to give away, so.
We do.
What? 440.
It's not on your sheet.
Where were you yesterday?
Thank you. It's not on my sheet.
Did you see me measuring and opening and pouring yesterday?
Putting stickers on things.
Oh, right. Yeah, I did see that. I didn't know we were starting that today.
Oh, sure. Why not? It's fresh.
Oh, there's many things to share then. You're going to have to stick with us. 440-546-2255. 440-546-2255.
Moody Radio's thankful for support from listeners and businesses like Deerfield Ag Services. They help in adaptation of new technologies and techniques of farm and business management. More information about Deerfield Ag and how they can help is at deerfieldagservices.com.
If you're 65 or older, you know this. Seeing your healthcare costs go up and up is frustrating. And maybe you were just notified that your Medicare costs are increasing again, or you're just tired of the massive deductibles. Well, here's some good news. There's a program that can really help with this. It's MediShare 65 Plus. It's an affordable, reliable alternative. You can choose any Medicare provider. You get telehealth access anytime you need it. And MediShare 65 Plus is a low-cost option for those with Medicare Parts A and B, and it fills in the gaps where Medicare stops. MediShare is a Christian healthcare community that aligns with your faith. People actually pray for you, they encourage you, and it's proven too. It's been going strong for over 30 years now. So call now. You can get one low monthly price for up to 10 years. You're not stuck with increasing costs. You can do something about this today. Call MediShare 65 Plus. Find out how much you can save. Call 833-59-SHARE. That's 833-59-SHARE. 833-59-SHARE.
Brian's third grade teacher left us a voicemail.
Please record your message.
I always thought that Brian would be a circus performer or a radio host. At least I got one right.
It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
And it's a follow-up Friday. My lovely wife, Sara, is our special Friday guest today. So I'm thankful so much that you came in even after a late night with a concert, Lauren Daigle.
Yeah, I'm running on a couple hours of sleep.
Oh.
And still lovely. Oh, how does she do it?
It's a miracle.
She doesn't need beauty sleep, Ron. Doesn't need it.
Nope.
Right.
Apparently not.
Nope, not at all. 440-546-2255. It's Follow-Up Friday. What do you want to talk about? We'd love to disagree with you. Daria and I are just over here saying, would you disagree? It's interesting. 440-546-2255. We had a long call there. I was all excited. They're just saying hello to you or what?
We can discuss that later.
Okay. All right. So here's a couple of things we chatted about this week that you might want to bring up again. One of them was travel sports and how they create issues and opportunities for families and churches. And it was a survey from Lifeway Research about travel sports and how pastors have very different opinions than parishioners about how often you ought to miss because of travel sports. And I was personally lamenting how much travel sports have changed. I sound like the old man here, but in my day, and Sara, you were in travel soccer just like I was.
Yeah.
Maybe once or twice a year, you would go on a long drive to stay in a hotel.
Right.
Now people are regularly taking like flights across the country and paying gobs of money that I don't know that my family could have afforded back in the day.
Yeah, no. I mean, it was a big decision for us to drive to another state for a game. And no, I would have never flown if that's the requirement. I wouldn't have played then.
And I've talked about how you and I have strategically said we just can't do this. Number one, it's too expensive. Number two, it's the time commitment has also increased with travel sports. And so, we're not legalistic about thinking you have to be at church every Sunday, but it certainly creates a problem now that society has changed so much.
I mean, I remember getting burned out in the Parks and Rec League, just doing softball or soccer or whatever it was. And that was just a season. That was just a couple times a week. But by the time the season was over, I was ready. And I just can't imagine these kids that this is what they do pretty much all the time year round.
Yeah.
And I think some of it is parents who are living through their children.
Yeah, I could see some of that.
Like they're really hoping their kid, if they just work hard enough, is going to get some kind of scholarship. And then they can be like, hey, guess what? My kid's on scholarship. Playing football at the university, it's, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Or not even need scholarship. I think it's just to be on the, select team or the A team. It's like looked down upon to be in just rec. And it's like, well, that's what's best for our child and our family. We have one kid that probably would play soccer year round, traveling, would love it. But no.
When God bless him, he's not good enough to get a scholarship. So at some point, what's the point of us spending all of our money and all of our time for him to stop doing it completely by the time he leaves the house?
And he learns the same type of lessons through rec that he would for traveling. I mean, the team playing, the playing with kids that are way better than you, playing with kids that don't have the skills yet.
Well, and last year in the rec league, I remember there was almost a fist fight between the coaches of a fifth grade team.
Ooh,
I'm
interesting.
talking games stopped, screaming and yelling, parents getting concerned, some of them screaming and yelling.
Yeah.
It was like, have we forgotten this is elementary school?
Yeah.
Anyone?
Yeah, my son coached soccer for a while. No, reffed soccer. And you could make $20 a game. And so he was out there, and I went and watched him ref because I've seen coaches that start ragging on the ref. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to sit here in the neutral territory between two teams. And, the first coach that comes after my boy is going down.
Yeah, well, I reffed one game, and then it wasn't worth the verbal abuse. Like $20, not nearly enough for the abuse referees take.
I bet.
All right. We also, maybe you want to discuss that. There's some comments from listeners we might revisit. Another discussion was quick to listen and slow to therapy speak. There was a Christianity Today article about how we may be overusing some words like gaslighting and trauma.
Oh, yeah.
To the point that they're like the seriousness of those terms are losing their weight. And we're also not, we're shutting down the difficulty that it is to actually navigate real relationship.
Mm-hmm.
What people are doing is saying, oh, that person gaslit me. I'm cutting them out of my life now.
Yes, they're so toxic. I can't put up with this trauma.
Yeah.
And just spiel out all the words.
I think we're all just a little bit toxic.
Yeah.
People are
Yes.
messy.
Well, I mean, if we truly believe the gospel, which we do, that we're all sinners that deserve hell. So that sounds a little toxic.
Yeah.
Our sin is going to hurt other people.
We must be pretty bad people if, we would be set there if not for the grace of, what Jesus did on the cross.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't mean that trauma and gaslighting don't exist in an abusive form. Of course they do. But there has to be a measure at which we endure relational challenge because we understand that people around us are sinners.
Yeah.
Yeah. Men should be the chief repenters in their homes. We talked about that. Lauren and Daria were all bent out of shape that I kept pushing that one off a little bit because we were busy on the show. Let's talk about that, Brian. What are you doing? Whoa, okay. Are you happy now that we covered it?
I don't think that's what we did.
We don't talk to you like that.
I think you're mischaracterizing us.
It felt like that. I felt triggered by it.
Well, then maybe you should come to us privately instead of airing your grievances on the radio.
Ooh.
But no, you two were looking forward to talking about
We
it.
were.
You thought it was a good topic. And it was a good topic.
Mm-hmm.
Talked about spiritual leadership and all that.
I had a chance to put it into effect.
Did you?
Yes.
Ronald?
Not in my family, but at work.
Here?
No, at
UPS. Okay.
UPS, yes.
Brian's like, you didn't apologize to me.
I'm sorry about that, Brian.
Oh, I forgive you, Ron.
Thank you. We were really backed up in this one system, and one of the supervisors came to me and said, can you concentrate on this particular door to get the particular packages out? And I said, in a kind of snide way, probably, yeah, if we could shut the belt off and then I could put my stuff on instead of these guys getting it all full before me. And he looked at me, he goes, I'm sorry, I just need you to get the belt out of the, and explain what he meant, which was a lot less than what I thought he was asking me to do. And so I stewed on that a little bit. I thought I shouldn't have said that, and I need to make things right, especially in light of our conversation about apologies. So at break time, he was passing by me, and I said, hey, Todd, I'm sorry I snapped at you like that. And it worked out well. He's like, I don't take anything personally here. We're in a lot of stress, everybody trying to do their job and get things done. And he goes, it's like rain off my back, but I appreciate you saying that.
Good for you, Ron.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very sweet.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that as well. And that's the point of the article, is that particularly in our homes, we got to be the first ones to repent. Again, if you believe the gospel, that means you're a sinner and you're going to make mistakes, and you've got to model repentance for your family.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very true.
And so much better to apologize quickly. Don't wait a week or two, but do it quickly and set that relationship right. It gives a firm foundation as you continue to build the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
They know they can, work with you, and that they can give you the benefit of the doubt because you've apologized for things you did wrong before.
Also, we talked about apologies in the form of, one writer said that nobody in the Bible ever said, I'm sorry, or I apologize. That phrase is not really anywhere to be found. Now, we got some comments. Some people thought they may have found places where that took place. So the person said we need to develop a theology of apology. Like, what does it actually look like then if there's no, oh, sorry, my bad, in the Bible? What does it actually look like? That was kind of fun. And then the cousin decline. Somebody talked about the fertility rates going low, and no one is bringing up the problem of less and less connection in families between cousins. They thought it was a big deal. We tried to figure out whether it was. We found out Daria has 1,232 cousins.
Roughly.
Ron and I each have 2. Right? You have 2.
I have 3. Well, one's deceased. So yeah, I'm down to
sorry.
2 cousins, first
Sorry.
cousins.
3. And you have
6.
6, yeah. But Daria, I was pretty close. You don't even know how many you have.
I don't. So my mom's dad is one of 8, and my dad is the youngest of 5. There are many, many cousins.
Wow. So what do you want to talk about? 440-546-2255, 440-546-2255.
I'm Cindy Farini, and this is Pause for Prayer. Quoting from James Dobson a while back, he said, quote, "I would like to discuss the sheer power of words. They are so easy to utter, often trembling out without much reason or forethought. Those who hurl criticism or hostility at others, many not even mean or believe what they say, but their comments may reflect momentary jealousy, resentment, depression, fatigue, or revenge. Regardless of the intent, harsh words sting like killer bees. Almost all of us have lived through moments when a parent, teacher, friend, colleague, husband, or wife has said something that cut to the quick. That hurt is now sealed forever in the memory bank. That is an amazing property of the spoken word. Even though a person forgets most of his or her day-to-day experiences, a particularly painful comment may be remembered for decades. By contrast, the individual who did the damage may have no memory of the encounter a few days later. We need to be mindful that everything we say has lasting meaning." Unquote. Let's pause for prayer. Lord, many of us have been hurt on the receiving end. Even at this moment, I can still recall a church hurt that was extremely damaging with no justification over 20 years ago, and it's like it happened last week. While we saw that same thing happening to others as well, we had no recourse. But you saw us through, and you helped us learn and grow to help others. Also, Lord, we have learned to be mindful to not hurt others by our words. We know we have at times hurt others, and I am greatly saddened when I have said things that have hurt others, and have appreciated, Lord, when you call it to mind that I might make amends. I am most saddened when I have hurt people with words that were taken out of context, misunderstood, or misinterpreted. Nonetheless, they are still wounded. Matthew 12:36 says, "I tell you that men will have to give account on the day of judgment for every careless word they have spoken." Unquote. Lord, help us tame our tongue. Please forgive us for hurting others by the words we have spoken. Because of the grace you have extended to us, we pray to extend forgiveness to others, even others who have no idea how deeply they hurt us. Help us to be mindful of what we say, how we say it, and what we mean by it, so that our lips would bless others by encouraging them, not tearing them down. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Honor your father and make your dad glad. Moody Radio wants to bless dads on Father's Day. It's our Green Eggs and Dad giveaway. Enter from May 27th to June 9th. You might win a big green egg grill for Dad. And it's easy to do. Here's how. Just go to moodyradio.org/dad. Fill out the form and tell us what makes your dad truly incredible. Enter at moodyradio.org/dad.
Counseling. It's what God created you to do. When you earn your Master of Arts in Clinical Mental Health Counseling from Moody Bible Institute, you'll be equipped to help others become who God created them to be. Study at Moody's Chicago or Michigan campus, where you can secure certificates in the areas of marriage, family, and couples counseling, as well as trauma-informed counseling. Learn more and get started on your counseling career today. Go to moody.edu/counseling.
Are you looking for candid conversation from a biblical perspective?
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Jordan Feliz, 641 here on WCRF, Mornings with Brian, Follow-Up Friday. The lovely Sara Dahlen, my wife, is in studio. So if you ever wanted to ask her a question, is he really like that? Or, however you want to phrase it. Go ahead. This is your chance.
Oh, I'll share it all.
440-546-2255. 440-546-2255. You'd be, you must be nervous. I share a lot on the radio. I'm not that nervous.
I want to
Don't look at me
too
like
much.
that.
Sarah knows what she can and can't say.
Although I'm admittedly a little nervous about that. 440-546-2255. All right, so I do want to go back to, we had a text that came in regarding travel sports and the issues it creates with families. Now, if you look at statistics, here's what we found. Not only is the travel sports industry grown into a $39 billion a year industry, $39 billion. It's projected to be a $72 billion industry by 2029. And what they found is that 1 in 3 U.S. Protestant pastors, or 36%, said it's never okay to skip a weekly worship service for kids' games. Never okay. It's a big number. And then if you look at parishioners, only 18% say it's never okay. You have a big disparity among the regular attenders and the pastors.
Mm-hmm.
So with that in mind, a number of people commented on this dilemma of what do you do, because increasingly travel sports happen on Sunday morning. And if you think about it, if you're not a Christian and you have a full-time job, you go, why aren't we using the weekend?
Yeah, you travel on Saturday to get there, and then you play either Saturday afternoon, evening, and Sunday.
Right. It's just another day we're a minority in this country. It's just a day.
And that's what I think we have a hard time grasping, because for so many years, everything was closed on Sunday. You couldn't do anything if you wanted to, and no one would dare schedule a game on Sunday.
Right.
Again, if you separate yourself from your identity in Christ, which is really hard to do, why would a non-Christian care about Sunday morning? They don't. They already do yard work. We drive past their house on the way. They're like, rolling out of bed and mowing the lawn. So all that to say, we got a note from a guy named Brian. Oh, I like him already. He said, I have a hard time with sports on Sundays. My daughter, who's in college now, played travel volleyball. And then she played in college as well. She loved it. All matches were on weekends. Most Sundays during that season were also part of that schedule. I was against that. My wife traveled with her, spending many weekends away from home. I serve at our church in the junior high, as well as small group leader. And once in a while I would go, only if Sunday wasn't affected. After her last season, I looked back and had mixed feelings and thoughts and emotions. My younger son, who is in junior high, plays travel basketball and travel baseball. I started missing every other Sunday affected by games. When Sunday evening came and my son came home excited about all those games, I had nothing to say. I wasn't there. I told the youth pastor. He said, when your son is playing, you should be there. Yes, I'm from a larger church. This, however, shouldn't matter. My kids love the Lord. We teach them about our walk with God and share our walk with them, encouraging them in personal relationships with God. God, comes first. Our church time should not come before our children. This will cause them to never want to go to church. Us putting going to church ahead of them should never happen. There are seasons in life. This childhood season goes by quick. This time can never be revisited. What do we think?
Everybody's kind of waiting.
I don't think that it's putting church above your kids. I think you just take away the option.
What do you mean take what option?
So right now, as it was stated, we do travel sports, and so there's church. And so if I'm going to church, I'm putting that above my kids. I think you start out that travel sports on Sundays is not an option. So it's never you're putting church above your kids. There's not an option for it to be there. I also think that he said that God is number one and church shouldn't be above your kids. Well, church is what God has ordained. It's what God put into place. It's what Christ left us. And it feels that we're taking away the importance of church. That it's just, we just go there for an hour and then we leave and it's fine. And that's really, really taking away the essence of what the church is. The church is for a community of believers. It's to have someone call you out on your sin, to be held accountable, to have iron sharpening iron, for people to hold you accountable, to make you better, for you to make other people better. It's for the teaching and preaching of the word among other believers. Sitting at home, listening to a sermon is not the same as going to church and hearing a sermon with others.
Interesting.
And also, church is, so it's together, like our community together, and then also outward. We're ministering to each other, but then we're also ministering outward to unbelievers. And how are you doing that if you're not a part of the church?
Well, perhaps the question becomes, are church communities actually functioning the way you describe they're supposed to? And if they're not, do you blame somebody for going, well, this is just something, I don't know, I guess we don't have to do that?
I think that churches are functioning that way. I think we, as, quote, consumers of the church, are not taking it up on all the possibilities it has.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was Nick Gatsky that was saying a couple weeks ago, you're going to get into church or get out of church what you put into it.
Right.
And honestly, bear with me on this. I think we live in too much of a kid-centered society where it's about their activities and what they want, which, childhood obviously is important. It's short. I think we need to live in more of a family and community-centered society. So kids, they see mom and dad in this community with church. We are continually surrounding ourselves with fellow believers, and kids just kind of integrate into the life that we have already created. We have made this space within the life we've already built for them, as opposed to saying, here are kids' activities and they're completely separate from everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you drew a boundary that I've heard people draw before, where Lauren, you said, travel sports are an option, but not games on Sundays are not an option. But what that does is, the way it's designed, that means travel sports are not an option. Like you can't just miss games in travel sports.
Then I would say, then travel sports is not an option.
And that's a dramatic statement in today's society.
I understand that.
Especially if your kid's a really good athlete. Now, we've got 5, and we've so far had like 2 that show some athletic ability. And the other ones would not be offended if we said that, because they're just not interested in sports. But
well, it wasn't it wasn't an expected thing that we had for them. Like, it wasn't, we don't push them to have to do a sport. It's just,
or an activity in general.
Yeah.
And we're different in that way, because I don't remember having a choice. I was going to take piano lessons. I was going to be in soccer. I did baseball. Like, no one asked me. I think it was just what I was told we were doing. But let's just say Trey is a tremendous athlete. His dad loves baseball. I mean, he might be looking at you crying, Mommy, I want to play baseball. All my friends are playing travel baseball. I'm so good at it. Please let me. Would it be harder in that circumstance, you think, to draw the line?
Sure, it's harder, but our church community and our faith life is a priority in our family. And that's the line for me.
Well, and what you said was all my friends are playing baseball. If you've already established yourself into a church community, then that will be his friends. And he won't be able to say all my friends are playing travel baseball, because he has a community at the church that are going to church on Sundays.
Mm-hmm. And we'll get to this in a minute because we have to take a break. But I think part of the problem is on the other end of it. I tried to hint at this, but if churches aren't able to, and it's not all their fault, it's parishioners too, but if we're not building vibrant, healthy communities where people are holding each other accountable and being vulnerable and transparent, why would you feel bent out of shape about missing it? Like, I'm not certain we're actually building the communities we're supposed to have. And that's why one of the reasons we're not taking it that seriously. How you doing? Oh, I'm blessed and highly favored. Even though we screamed at each other in the car on the way here, and our marriage is about to fall apart. But no one at church knows. No one knows. We can't tell anyone. We're too embarrassed. It's supposed to be the opposite of that in a church community.
Yeah, but I don't think that's the church's fault.
No, it's not the church's fault. Right. But churches contribute to it.
Sure, but I think the churches are providing the opportunities to do these things, and it's us as the people, the congregation, that's not taking part in it. That's not doing our part of being a part of a church.
So then what do you What will you do when you want that and you have a hard time finding it and building it?
Yeah, you either have to be the one to build it and start it, or you have to go find it somewhere else.
Yeah, that's hard. Because, I mean, we've experienced times where we try to build community with people and you try to get vulnerable and they're all weirded out by it.
Oh, sure.
Move on to the next.
6:51, time for a quick break. We'll continue with Follow Up Friday here on Mornings with Brian, WCRF, 440-546-2255.
Classics. They're priceless. At moodyaudio.com, you'll find classics of a different kind, like Radio School of the Bible and Conference Echoes, plus Bible teaching from names like David Platt, A.W. Tozer, and Francis Schaeffer. There's Talking It Over with George Sweeting, plus stories of great Christians. Stream live or download the MP3s at no cost. Check out the archives page next time you visit moodyaudio.com. That's moodyaudio.com.
Hey guys, it's us, your hosts of the Car Seat Questions podcast, Eddie and Lauren.
Does God love everyone, including Satan? Why do you and I look different? Do you love Jesus more than me? Have you ever heard tough questions from the backseat?
Tune in to the Car Seat Questions podcast every Wednesday to hear a new conversation answering those questions and more. Find us wherever podcasts are available.
So, you're a college grad, but the enthusiasm of college life has faded, and the workaday world, it's kind of boring. What now? Find answers in 101 Questions You Need to Ask in Your 20s, valuable advice, and great humor. This book will help you feel better about your 20-something life and help you score a few more wins. 101 Questions You Need to Ask in Your 20s. Learn more at moodypublishers.com.
Keeping your eyes on Jesus in a changing culture can be difficult. Let us help. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio, Cleveland.
6:53, Mornings with Brian here on WCRF. We've got a big giveaway going for Father's Day. We had one for Mother's Day. And dads, we're not going to forget about the dads.
Oh, no.
Dads are the best. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All the enthusiasm. Yeah, you better get out there and get those cards early, ladies.
You want us
You
to
don't want to be standing there.
Yeah, you want us to be excited, but then on Mother's Day, all you talk about is how no one talks about Father's Day the same.
Except my wife does a great job. I'm always careful to say that. I realized after a couple of years of me being the advocate for Father's Day doesn't matter, you were like, do you know what that makes me sound like, buddy? She does a great job about Father's Day. You do.
I have some years and some years I haven't, and that's okay.
That's how it works. But our Father's Day giveaway we're calling Green Eggs and Dad, because the winner will get the big green egg all-in-one grill, smoke, barbecue, brick oven combo. It's a grilling extravaganza for you, along with some, all the accoutrements that go with a grill. And we're going to throw in a book bundle of Moody Publishers books. You want to register for your chance to win this? Text the word DAD to 440-546-2255. Text DAD to 440-546-2255. Before this break, we were revisiting one of the topics of the week, which is travel sports, and how pastors and people in the pews seem to really disagree with how often you can miss church for travel sports. With a high number of pastors, like over 30% of pastors, saying you really should never miss church for sports. And Lauren brought up, you're in that category. You're like, no, prioritize church community.
Yeah.
440-546-2255. Let's jump to BJ in Cleveland. BJ, what's your thought?
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Hey.
I believe that your family is your first ministry first. It took a lot of years for me to understand that, okay? Whatever it takes to make sure that family is healthy and well-rounded, that's what we must do, because we're losing our children to so many other things. And when our children are not nurtured in their activities, they're going to find nurturing somewhere else. First, one point is the church, Little C, is a building. That's where we go and we fellowship with others. But I believe us being the church, the people are the church, big C, body of Christ. We carry the mission with us, and we can build that community with that team. And it doesn't take a whole lot of harboring on the Bible, showing love, showing compassion, doing those things that we need to do to build the body of Christ.
So if I'm understanding you right, you're saying we can ultimately, you're saying you could miss Sunday worship at your church building, but you could build Christian community in the travel sports family. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jesus didn't stay in one place. He moved around. Some people need that church every Sunday. But if you are studying to show yourself approved, you won't need that. You won't need it every Sunday because you are equipping yourselves and your families not only on Sunday, but all other 6 days of the week.
Yeah, BJ, I've heard people talk about how much of a ministry field their travel sports family becomes for them. We've talked to a number of people close to the show about that. The only gentle pushback I'd give you to see what you think on this is the people I know who have their kids in travel sports, they're usually the only Christian family. And so the idea of creating a Christian community in the travel sports team where nobody is a Christian except you're not going to be able to build the type of accountability Lauren was talking about that's so essential for church community. What's your thought on that little gentle nudge?
The accountability is going to come. But if we don't open our mouths to even build relationships, how is it going to come? We are responsible for carrying the mission as well, not just the pastor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I wonder if you're absolutely right about your approach to doing travel sports, but maybe not as a replacement for church.
Oh, no, I'd never say that. I'm not saying that. Like I said, sports is only a season.
Yeah.
And you're not going to go, you may go for 8 weeks out of one season. Now, it's up to you on how you balance it, but that's between you and God.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that, I think your family is your first ministry. Think about years past how we've lost our children to a lot of things because we felt like, we have to be in that building. Mm-hmm. And what did the young man Brian say? Our children were sacrificed. He didn't say that. I'm saying that. Our children were sacrificed. I did it.
I was hoping you were referring to me as young Brian, but I guess it was the other guy. BJ, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on this. I really appreciate it. I love a good pushback and disagreement. You stay on hold. We got to send her something, too, for giving us our first call on a Friday.
Can we give away some brand new stuff, Lauren? You want to talk about the brand new stuff we're going to send her?
Yes.
What?
We have some brand new stuff. We have joined in a partnership with Yada Yada Coffee Roasters in Cuyahoga Falls, and they've made us a Mornings with Brian blend.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
So we're going to send BJ a 12-ounce pack of beans for her to make a little cup of coffee.
She gets her first one.
Yay!
Oh, BJ, you get for coffee. Mornings with Brian blend. It must be smooth and
slightly
handsome.
Sweet.
A little tart.
Says my wife.
That's funny.
Team thoughts on BJ and what she had to say there. There was a lot there.
Mm-hmm.
Lauren, I would imagine you have all the feels because she's disagreeing with you.
Sure. I think like you said, Brian, I don't think that we can say we'll find our community at travel sports. We won't find our Christian community there. Our ministry is our family, but that doesn't mean that you don't go to church because your ministry is at home. I think you bring your kids to church, and that's a part of being your ministry is showing them what it looks like to be a part of a church community. And that's how you minister to your family, is showing them that this church community is important.
Well, and if I understand the language used in Scripture by the apostles and Jesus himself, the word for followers of Christ that are not related is family.
Yeah.
Like we are adopted into the family of God,
That's
and we
right.
become brothers and sisters. There's neither slave nor free, Jew nor Greek.
Yeah.
We're all one in Christ. And so the idea of even separating your immediate family from your church family, there is some separation, of course, biblically, but I think that implies a weightier value in life to church community.
Yeah, and to note that, Jesus traveled and Paul traveled. Paul, you would more categorize him as a missionary, not a part of a, local church. But he was deeply connected to the local churches that he did know.
Peter didn't travel.
Yes, exactly.
And James and John, they were all in Jerusalem running the church.
Yes, and you see the churches that, like Corinth and Ephesus and, Galatians, you see all of them. Those are local communities. And in that time, people are not moving around. They're not moving from city to city. They are born and raised in those cities, and they have generations and generations of families in that same city, in that same town, village.
Mm-hmm.
And they're making their community there. And that's what I'm talking about. Your local church does still have extreme significance and it should be a priority in your Christian faith.
And what you're describing sounds amazing, but again, I think if I'm in her defense, a lot of people have never experienced what you're talking about.
I totally agree. I see that.
And so they don't really get it. Like, what do you mean? You just hang out on Sunday, we sing songs, there's a message, small group. What? And this is where we have to get to Ron's news here, but I could just kind of drop this in front of us. My friend Nancy Kane and I were in a podcast episode recently chatting about a quote that I'll poorly paraphrase from Stanley Hauerwas, the theologian, where he talks about one of the big flaws of Protestantism in general is that we make faith a me and Jesus thing, and church is that other thing you do, kinda. Where he says the way the Christian life is designed is that church community and regular corporate worship is essentially how you live out your faith. It's not separate from or that thing you add on to it. It's an integral part of being a believer. And I think his description is pretty fair. For a lot of evangelicals, it's like, I do faith, I do my quiet time, I have my friends who are Christians, and we go worship on Sunday. I think what you're saying, Lauren, is the Bible describes something totally different. Mm-hmm. It's a communal living kind of thing, not necessarily to some sort of kibbutz extreme, but maybe.
Yeah.
440-546-2255.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and everywhere with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
President Biden will mark the 80th anniversary of D-Day in Normandy, France next week. It's 7:04. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. Mr. Biden will deliver remarks and meet with American veterans and their families to honor the landing of Allied troops in Normandy during World War II. Biden and the First Lady will also meet with President Emmanuel Macron for an official state visit in Paris. The NTSB is continuing its work investigating this week's deadly explosion at a building in Youngstown. Investigators yesterday said they've discovered a cut gas line in the basement of the historic Realty building where the explosion occurred. Reports say they're looking into the cutting of that line, though they don't believe there was anything sinister about it. And Akron Metro is giving riders the chance to travel fare-free on weekends this summer. Starting this weekend, rides will be fare-free on Metro Direct on Saturdays and Sundays every weekend in June, July, and August. I'll have sports and weather in just a moment.
The Every Woman's Bible is a study Bible for the heart and mind. Engaging study notes and devotionals address topics relevant to women with cultural, historical, and literary clarity and context to gain greater understanding. Over 100 Every Woman's Bible scholars, writers, and contributors, all women from around the world, invite you into a global community. Begin your journey today at everywomansbible.com. Tyndale's best-selling Every Man's Bible is also available at Tyndale.com.
In sports, the Dallas Mavericks will now challenge the Boston Celtics for the NBA Finals beginning in June, on the 6th of June. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Sunny skies today, high temperatures in the mid-70s. At last check, clear skies across the listening area. It's 46 degrees in Cleveland, 44 Akron and Canton, 44 degrees in Youngstown as well.
It's time for your moron moment.
With summer travel season just around the corner, you'll want to know what medicines you're taking in case you run out while you're on the road. Dr. Andrew Mellon, the Chief Medical Officer of SureScripts, recommends carrying a complete list of your pills and a cell phone photo of your meds as well. He says that'll make it a lot easier in case you need more medication or end up at an urgent care or ER while you're on the road. He says take extra medication with you and put all your pills in a carry-on, not in the checked luggage that could go missing. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 7:07. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron Eastwood.
Broadcasting live from the Bob Devine Studio. It's Mornings with Brian. Want to join the conversation? Call or text now at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Micah Tyler, WCRF, Mornings with Brian. We're at 7:10. It's a follow-up Friday, 440-546-2255. My lovely wife, Sara, joining us all morning.
Hello.
Oh, I love you so much. Thanks for being on the radio.
Okay.
And we've been chatting a little bit about the travel sports debate, as in there was a survey out from Lifeway about how 30-some% of pastors are like, you should never miss church for sports. But only like 1 in 5 regular parishioners like saying the same thing. Dramatic difference here. And a lot of people are talking about how, they're saying families first ministry, it doesn't last that long. Don't make it a big deal. And Lauren, you're saying, no, it is a big deal. I think I'm saying too. It's difficult to make those decisions when your kids are passionate about sports and such, but what are the comments you're seeing come in?
Sorry. Church is very important for the body of believers. Maybe I'm weird, but the subject of travel sports on Sunday, I really think that is a subject they need to take to God and see what God has to say. I agree that it's a season, but I also want to point out that I don't have kids, but I really think God could have a purpose in that short time. And I also think it's important to have your kids in a Christian setting. I'm generally with Lauren, but if you have a kid who needs to be in travel sports or auto racing or something, I think you build your church around that.
What does that mean, build your church around that?
Maybe it means you find a church that has services on Saturday that you could go to, or if you can't do that, then you make your community outside of the actual church.
Yeah, I mean, to presume Sunday morning is the only time to do it is totally wrong. That's not even biblical, really. Jesus makes pretty clear you can gather whenever you'd like. There's no right answer to that. But
the facts are most churches are still gathering exclusively on Sunday. Yes, there are some that are doing other times, but for the most part, you're going to have a hard time finding a church that, we just moved here and it took us a long time finding a church we liked just based on a couple basic parameters, like we need to have people that are close to our age, it needs to be diverse, the preaching needs to be solid. You start narrowing it down further to they need to have Saturday services and you're really shooting yourself in the foot.
Mm-hmm.
It's harder to find in Northeast Ohio than you might imagine.
Mm-hmm.
We had an easier time finding that in other communities, I think. But But yeah, so there you go. What else you got?
My husband's been a travel ball coach for 30 years. Excuse me. We would find a church to go to whatever town we were in.
What do you think of that, Ron?
It's possible. You have to really make the effort. I don't know how many people would make the effort because you're going to have to find a church that's got a service that fits in where you don't have a game or a practice scheduled during this away from home tournament, and make sure you go there. There's going to be other things like we went to a tournament in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is close to Hershey, Pennsylvania. So everybody was going to Hershey and touring the factory and all the things you could do there. It was winter, so not exactly winter, but it was cold enough that the theme park was closed. But there were things to do there. Mm-hmm. And it often is that case. You're going to a location that has touristy things that can be done in your downtime. So you'll be, if you make the point of taking your kids to a church while you're away, you're probably taking them away from their group of friends and some of the events that they're all going to share in.
And I would say that approach to church is a little different. I mean, and this person's fabulous. That's a commitment, by the way, to spend 30 years coaching. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's impressive to me. But the idea of church is not, I have a relationship with Jesus, and his expectation of me is that I go and I worship him in a building wherever I am and leave. Like the idea that I'm going to a worship service for me and Jesus is not the point. I think it's pretty easy to make that argument in Scripture. I used to think of it that way. You and I were more like it's a place that you go.
Yep, you check off the box for the week.
It's about fueling me so I have what I need to get through the week to the next Sunday.
But if you look at the early church, I mean, they were sharing meals together. They were sharing, they were not just on Sunday morning. The idea of church, as you were saying before, is not just that individual people sit next to each other and sing the same songs. That's not what it's about.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about before, we've just moved here. We're looking for a church. We found a church we like, but it's 45 minutes away. And we said we can't do that because we're not actually going to be able to be a part of that community. We're not going to find people that live nearby us where we're actually going to want to be with them and can go be with them because it's too far to do regularly. We need to find something that's close to home.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
And I've said before, too, that I don't necessarily blame anyone in particular, but most churches, I would say, and this is going to sound harsh, but most churches, you will not find the community you're describing. It's very rare. Sarah and I were in a church in Chicago where there was a married couples group we were a part of that lived out community together. People would come in there and they'd be wound up from an argument they had, and they'd let it all loose in front of the whole group and allow us to work together on solving.
It was wonderful.
Wasn't it amazing?
Yeah. And we were together with various members of that group, a couple times a week over at each other's houses, picking each other's kids up, going to different functions. Like we were a community.
Or you have a married couples group that goes in and they take turns teaching and everyone sits next to each other and they hold hands and then they say goodbye and have some coffee. Meanwhile, at least 2 or 3 of those marriages are about to die, but nobody says anything and no one knows. That's not how it's supposed to work in a church community. What else are we getting here?
If you teach your kids that church is optional, we can't be surprised when they're adults and they see church as optional or less. Being in a church teaches us deeper doctrine. It's deeper doctrine. It's not all just fellowship.
What do you think of that?
I totally agree. We're saying that, our families come first and our kids come first, and we can't put church above our kids. But then you're showing them that church is optional. If they're in travel sports all the time, when are they going to learn that church is a vital part of the Christian walk?
Yeah, I think you're compartmentalizing things a little bit too much. We're hearing several, families are first ministry, and we totally agree with that. But how are you supposed to minister to your family if you're always running ragged, if you're never in church? I mean, I know some people who do travel sports with their kids, and they love Jesus, but they miss a lot of church. And the child who is in travel sports, the world kind of revolves around them because the schedule is so busy. So I don't even know how you can minister to your own family using that argument if you have a child in travel sports, because the parents can't minister to each other, they can't get filled, they can't properly dedicate time to their other children because this one child has needs that are so great. And it's a really simple solution of just cutting back on that.
Well, and to your point as well, family being the first ministry is a true statement, but it has nothing to do with corporate worship and church.
Right.
It's a totally separate thing. Your family is your first ministry, but that doesn't mean, oh, yeah, and by the way, that means my family being together equals church, which, by the way, also, this is one of my pet peeves, the whole 2 or 3 are gathered thing. Mm-hmm. Technically, when you look at where that's quoted, that has to do with church discipline, not just because Sarah and I are together at home, suddenly it's a worship service. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a different subject, I suppose. 7:19, time for a quick break. We'll come back and continue with Follow-Up Friday here on WCRF Mornings with Brian. 440-546-2255.
The pain of loneliness can be overwhelming, debilitating, even life-threatening. But Steve DeWitt's latest book offers a different biblical take on that loneliness. Steve says, as painful as it is, you don't have to hate loneliness. In fact, it's a gift from God with a powerful redemptive effect on our lives. From pastor and Moody Radio host Steve DeWitt, loneliness. Don't hate it, don't waste it, use it, redeem it. Available at moodybooks.org.
COVID caused it to happen. I used to listen to sports radio in the morning, and I decided to start listening to Moody Radio, and I struggled somewhat with anxiety, and I struggled with not always accepting God's forgiveness for my past mistakes, and it's really helped me to trust more, and they just remind me that God loves me no matter what.
Give online at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
According to recent CDC statistics, a 15-week abortion ban, including exceptions, would still allow nearly 98% of abortions. because most abortions are performed before that 15-week mark. That's hard to hear. It's crucial that as Christians, we don't become so discouraged that we abandon the political process. But at the same time, we can't put our hope in politics. Our hope must lie in loving and serving people and transforming lives through the gospel. Roland Warren, president of CareNet, asked Christians to remember that the politics of abortion does not change the morality of what happens in an abortion. Today, embrace the opportunities you have to bring pro-life ministries to your church, support pregnancy care centers and maternity homes, and address the issues that lead to abortions by strengthening family and fatherhood. Get free resources and learn more about the mission of CareNet at care-net.org. care-net.org.
Do you ever wonder why success can feel empty? Why is more money still never enough? Or why relationships can be so hard? Try something different today. On your way to work, turn on your radio and join our conversations about life's deeper questions. And don't worry, we drop the pretense and don't take ourselves too seriously. But like you, we're looking for transformation in life.
When you allow someone to fully know you and still love you.
Join us for Mornings with Brian, weekdays starting at 6 a.m. on 103.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
That's what people are kind of implying is that, oh, no, you can create your church community at the game. No, you can't.
There's no elders there. There's no deacons there. There's no pastors there.
There's no one holding you accountable for your sin because most of the people on the sidelines are not Christian.
And even if they are, there's no elders there.
Because what you're doing
There's
is
no pastors
you're
there.
yelling at the ref and you're cheering for your kid. I mean, I mean, you should see my wife at a soccer game. It's like she forgets she's a Christian sometimes.
Brian.
I'm just kidding.
Brian.
I'm just kidding.
I am a soccer mom. Yes, I am.
No, that came out sideways.
Yeah, you
didn't
say
it?
sorry.
I'm sorry, Sarah. That came out sideways.
That's okay. I don't think anyone expected anything different.
You get super excited on the sidelines.
Oh, yeah. I'm very animated.
And so if I tried to turn the sidelines into a small group, how would that make you feel?
That's weird. I mean,
you'd be like,
it's
I'm
just
watching
not-
the game, Brian.
Yeah. I don't know.
All right. 440-546-2255. What else you got?
Someone said, growing up in the South, we didn't have sports that happened on Sundays. It's changed since I've moved to Ohio. It's more frequent. However, it seems that families are able to have community with the church growing together and serving together outside of attending a worship service, such as going to a small group or home group gatherings. They gather together during the week, and that's more intimate than attending a large gathering on Sunday. Personally, I'm more challenged and held accountable by my home group than I am an entire body of congregation that I'm a part of.
Okay. Now, honestly, the house church movement that happens in our country, I think, is oftentimes more resembling what the scriptures are expecting of life, where you're sharing meals, you're sharing time, accountability. If somebody were really heavily involved in sports and therefore start a house church, I don't know that I have an objection
during
to
the
that.
week. Yeah, my only concern about that is that if you're just saying just a small group where there's no formal leadership, there's no like elders or there's no pastor, and you're not teaching the word and you're just like talking about like your feelings and you're not actually digging into the word, that's a problem in a small group. But if you're doing that, if you're, getting into the word and you're, spurring each other on and there's like a leadership there and you're able to hold each other accountable, that all those things are in place, it's great.
And by the way, you also should be probably having communion.
Yes.
You should be saying
Sacraments,
creeds together. I mean, yeah.
Ordinances.
But that could be a legitimate alternative.
Yep.
And you meet on, I don't know, Thursday afternoon. Who knows? 440-546-2255. You got some more comments coming in here?
Someone said we do over-prioritize our kids for sure. We also segment them from larger society, which really concerns me.
Yeah.
Sarah, you were saying something to that ilk during the break.
Yeah, I think it comes down to that parents are having their lives revolve around their kids and wanting them to be happy. Like, we got one text that says, what if they have to be? No kids have to be in these sports. Whatever they're learning from it, they can learn in other ways. And so, but even like, I mean, that's just how our society is now. You pick a restaurant because that's where your kids want to go instead of having them learn to adjust to the restaurant you want. You watch shows that are what the kids want to watch. You go to bed based off of when the kids are going to bed. It's like, no, there needs to be a better balance of the kids are part of the life, not the whole thing.
Yeah, and we don't say that from a position of, this is at least my interpretation. I wonder what you think of this, my love. The fact that we have 5 kids has forced us into that position.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if we would have had one kid, I would have spoiled that. If Grace was our only one, I would have spoiled her. I would have bought her whatever she wanted. I would have just done whatever. Like,
oh, yes.
I know I would have.
Like with 5, we can't do what they want to do.
Well, no.
In fact, most of the time, none of them get what they want. And it's only because we can't. Not because we choose that for them. You follow what I mean? And so we're forced into this position of you can't be a priority. There's just too many of you.
Yeah, we can't have a kid be in a traveling sport because then one child would be determining our family schedule, and that's not going to happen.
And it's already close to that with Rec League.
Yeah, it is. Like, we have single elimination tournament this weekend, and
oh boy, I forgot about that.
It's rec travel, so it's travel around our area, like an hour away. And so that's...
But that destroys a Saturday.
But then we also both don't go. If, there are times where he wishes everyone can come to his game and he has a hard time with.
That is so precious.
It's really cute, but it's like, no, we can't have our whole family's day all about you. Nope.
No.
I have other stuff I need to do. Dad's going to go, or, Dad has stuff to do. I'm going to go to the game.
Yeah, I don't recommend necessarily, particularly in this economy, having 5 children. But what I can tell you is that we're not speaking from a position of self-righteousness that we've made some sort of like ideological decision and like moral decision. Don't take it that way. Like, it's still hard. Like, I wish our kids could do more, but they just can't. So, the end.
Well, I'm thinking too about the impact on marriages. Never mind the other children who, like I said, sometimes one child gets all the focus because they're doing traveling sports. You and your spouse don't have any time together.
Yeah.
You don't have any time as like a family, like couple kids bored while we all watch this one play. It's not really quality family time.
No.
It's been a busy week, and you and I have separately texted on occasion. I miss you.
Yeah, because
we
we're
live
just
together.
We're just high-fiving each other as
you
we're
pass
running
by.
kids places. But yeah, and I know some people use the argument like, what if your kid is really good at a sport? And it's like, kids can learn. It's a good lesson to play with kids that aren't as good a skilled as you. It's a good lesson of how to be a team player. And, even the best soccer player in middle school right now probably won't go to college on full ride scholarship. Like, sorry, you're not probably not going to play for, you're not David Beckham.
And that's the thing. I'll be the guy to tell you, whoever you are that goes, but my kid's really good. You don't understand. He's like the best kid in our community. Yeah, here's how it's going to play out. Get ready. You're going to ruin your family life. You're going to put all your money into this. The kid's either going to quit after high school and not want to play anymore because they're so sick of it, or they're going to go to college on some sort of scholarship and find out they're not actually that good. And maybe slide in their studies a little bit and never play professionally. Well, what if no, your kid will not play professionally. No. And so if you can accept that from the outset, like your kid's not going to make a living doing this, maybe that changes the whole game.
And I think you can
for
let
lack
your
of a
kids.
better term.
I think you can let your kids dream. Like, don't crush your kids'
I don't know,
dreams.
though.
You can, but you can balance that with like, this is reality. Like, head in the clouds, feet on the ground.
But if you got a middle schooler saying they're going to play pro ball and there's no chance, I think you're doing them a disservice letting them dream like that. That's a ridiculous dream.
I went to high school at a small Christian school in Illinois, and I had 2 kids that they weren't in the same grade as me, I don't think, but around my age. They both played pro football.
What?
And they didn't do like travel sports. They played for our school.
Wow.
And they did like, training camps and stuff like that in the summer. And they went pro, both of them.
Wow. They went to church too, I bet, huh?
They did.
Wow.
Ron, do you know Don Beebe?
Yes.
It's his son, Chad
Okay.
Beebe. Yeah. And then another guy.
Green
Cool
Bay
name.
Packer, I believe.
Why?
Yeah.
You're making my theory fall apart, though, if I'm saying the odds are you won't. You're like, 2 people I knew did.
No, but even if they do, why have we made going pro the measure for success, especially when we're talking about children? Like, they don't need to be thinking about their careers, their kids.
Right.
But when you think about these pro ball players, their lives are a mess.
Especially football.
Especially football players.
Their
Because
bodies are destroyed.
Right. They die very young, or they commit domestic violence, and it's not entirely their fault because they've had so many concussions. They're not thinking straight.
440-546-2255. We're super late for a break, but we'll come back with more conversation. Plus, not too far away from Todd wrote in with a really interesting question for Sarah and me about marriage counseling.
The Christian life is like a journey, but Dr. Tony Evans says it may not be the kind of trip you were expecting. He explains as we spend 2 minutes with Tony.
One of my favorite vacations to take is cruise ships, cruising, because they do everything for you. In fact, when you get off the plane, you don't even have to look for your bags anymore. You meet them at the ship. You get to the ship, the steward meets you, tells you all the services in the boat, eat till you drop, entertainment galore, come and go as you please, go to different ports. You get to cruise, you get to chill for a week or 10 days or however long. It's a cruise ship, and so you don't have to do much because it's all taken care of for you. See, some of y'all cruised in here this morning. I showed up, man. You take care of everything else. You make sure everything is taken care of, everything is flowing, everything is set up, everything is working, because I'm cruising. But I got some bad news for you. The Christian faith isn't a cruise ship, it's a battleship. And on a battleship, you need all hands on deck. It's about warfare, because there's an enemy out there that's coming after you and you and you and you and you and you and me, so we need all hands on deck. Everybody playing their little part. If you're a finger, be a good finger. If you're a hand, be a good hand. If you're an arm, be a good arm. If you're a foot, be a good foot. But please know, this is not a cruise ship. This is a battleship, and we need all hands on deck.
Dr. Evans digs deeper into what life in God's kingdom should be like in his series, The One Another's, available online at tonyevans.org. And be sure to join us next time for 2 Minutes with Tony.
Moody Radio is thankful for support from Epic Studios. This summer, believers nationwide will join the Million Souls campaign, bringing unsaved family and friends to see the new movie, The Firing Squad, the true story of prisoners who find faith in the face of execution and transform their prison in the process. At the movie's conclusion, co-star Kevin Sorbo comes on screen to lead the theater in a prayer of commitment to Jesus. More information on tickets is available at FiringSquadFilm.com.
Keeping your eyes on Jesus in a changing culture can be difficult. Let us help. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio, Cleveland.
740 WCRF, Mornings with Brian's Follow-Up Friday, 440-546-2255. One of the fun little things we've announced earlier today is Lauren's been wheeling and dealing out there, and we got a brand new little Mornings with Brian thing we're doing.
We have a Mornings with Brian coffee blend. Yay!
Courtesy of Yada Yada Coffee in Cuyahoga Falls.
Yes, if you guys remember several, I don't know, it was like maybe a month or more ago, we were testing out coffees in the morning here on Friday. We were testing out different blends. So we picked one that we all liked.
And so throughout the coming months, we're going to be giving away, for various reasons,
Yeah.
a little bit of coffee. It's like essentially a cup of coffee?
Yeah, it's one 12-ounce cup of coffee of beans.
Can people go buy it there, or is this
Not
the
yet.
only place to get it?
This is the only place to get it. If we pop off, maybe. But for now, we're trying it out here.
We send you some. Let us know if you like it.
Yeah.
So to help people closer to Ron and my age, pop off would mean if you went crazy?
No, like if it gets like really popular, it becomes like a big deal.
Like shoots off,
You knew
pops
that?
off. I figured it out based off of
thank
our
you, Sarah.
conversation. Like, I don't
They
need
don't-
a definition.
Yes, thank you.
Another
Yes.
legitimate interpretation of, well, if we pop off, that would be like, if we all go crazy,
No,
maybe we're
that
gonna...
doesn't make
That doesn't make
sense.
sense. You
That
hear
actually
words
Help
that
me,
make
Ron!
sense.
No, that I
Help
track.
me, Ron!
I track with him.
No,
Ron
Daria,
left
you
me in
don't.
the dust.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I did. Thanks a lot. I've done it to you a lot, so I guess it's my turn. We got a really interesting question from, is it Todd?
Yes.
What is Todd's question here as we shift gears on Follow-Up Friday?
Brian has said that he and Sarah have done therapy and is extremely beneficial. As a married couple, at what point do you decide that counseling is needed? As a happily married couple, should we seek out counseling, or is that reserved for specific issues? Are there other ways that you recommend getting input or advice on marriage things? Have any of the other host producers found settings that are most beneficial to fostering a lasting, happy, content, strong relationship?
There's a lot of questions in there. Let's start with the first one. How about that? Sarah, I've said that we have done marriage therapy. Extremely beneficial. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, it rescued our marriage.
Yes.
How do you decide that counseling is needed?
That's tough because I want to say it's needed for everybody, but then there's this like level of like, if you are happy, then why ruin it? Like by working through things that are making issues that aren't there. But I think everyone has issues that are there. They're just not dealing with them.
Totally agree.
Like, and I think people we aren't aware of some things that are issues that could be worked on because we think that's just how it is.
Yeah, we had a cycle of arguing in our relationship.
Yeah.
That I remember being in it and going, oh no, that was horrible. I wonder if we need counseling. We keep doing this.
and then you go to bed and you wake up and you're a little better and you go, well, I think we're okay.
Yeah, and you don't want to deal with it.
Because it's not bad enough.
Yeah, and it is hard, like, when you deal with those things, but it's that, like, you become refined and you just get better, like, so if you can be better, why wouldn't you? If you could be closer, more intimate, happier together.
So if someone's in a happily married couple, should they seek out counseling, or should it just be for the big problems that you see?
Well, I have a couple ways I would answer that. You're a happily married couple. Okay. So are you not a sinner? I mean, the idea that you don't have any issues in your marriage to work through is a problem in and of itself. That's not possible.
Right. Because
not possible.
I've heard from people, friends and stuff that, we're happily married. Oh, they're my best friend. And you just kind of look at them as a couple and you're like, wow, really? Like, you don't act that way. We don't see, so I think some couples don't think they have big issues, but they probably do. Or somebody's not speaking up. Or
Maybe it's not like someone was cheating on the other one. There's not like huge, big issues.
Right.
Can you still go to counseling?
Yeah, because small issues can ruin a marriage.
Mm-hmm. The leaving the cup on the counter issue, like repeatedly, like those types of issues.
Explain that one again.
Yeah, so Sarah's asked you not to leave the cups on the counter and you just don't understand why, so you leave the cups on the counter anyway. Well, then to Sarah, it starts to feel like you don't care about me, you don't see me.
Right.
Because over time, you're like, I've asked you to do this and you're not doing it. So to you, it's like, I'm just leaving a cup on the counter. But to Sarah, it could be, you don't care about me and you don't see me.
Could you pick a different example?
Well, and the fact that you're not comfortable having that conversation with, like, if I wasn't comfortable having that conversation with Brian and saying, this is how I feel, then that is a big issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so little issues at their core can have big issues.
I also think that it's good for, even if you're a well-oiled machine, you're like happily married, there's not huge stuff, it's good for it to have a tune-up. People change over time. If you've been married 20 years, if you've been married 8 years like me, people change. And so you may be functioning out of the person that you knew when you first got married or engaged, but they're not the same person anymore.
Well said, yes.
And so it's good to just have a tune-up.
You need to address the cracks before they become chasms.
Yeah.
If you wait too long, you will get to a point of no return where it doesn't matter how much work you put into this, it might be too late.
Yeah, and it makes me think of a time a number of years ago. We had Dr. Julie Slattery in studio with us. Didn't happen super often because she's so busy. And she couldn't come with us the week before because her and her husband, Mike, this is Dr. Julie Slattery. She's a psychologist. She writes books about marriage and relationships.
Mm-hmm. Her ministry is called Authentic Intimacy.
Yes, and her and her husband did a week-long marriage intensive because they needed to work through some stuff and wanted to do a tune-up.
Mm-hmm.
If Dr. Julie Slattery needs to do a marriage intensive.
Same with Dr. Chapman, Gary Chapman.
What? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, he does that kind of stuff. He talks about it all the time.
I remember he thought when they first got married that he was studying for his PhD. He thought his wife would want to like sit there and watch him study.
Yes.
He said that.
Yeah, she's like, no.
I am not going to watch you study.
Carolyn Chapman, she's the best. Yeah, him too. He's like, yeah, you just need tune-ups every once in a while. Even as the guru of the 5 love languages.
That's how you stay a happily married couple.
Right. Isn't that funny, though? Somebody else might go, well, I don't know, though. Okay. If Dr. Gary Chapman and Dr. Julie Slattery need marriage tune-ups, you do too. And if you think you don't, I don't know what. You do.
If you think you don't, you do.
You're delusional, and you should get help for that.
Everybody needs a tune-up.
But there's some more questions that came from Todd tied to therapy and asking the rest of the team some of these things. Because marriage growth isn't necessarily only happening in professional counseling. We'll talk more at 440-546-2255.
This is Wayne Shepherd for the Far East Broadcasting Company. It's easy to take Christian radio for granted here, but there are many places around the world where people have never heard the gospel in their own language. That's why Moody Radio partners with FEBC, the Far East Broadcasting Company, to bring gospel broadcast to those living in spiritually dark places. But the job is not yet complete. There are still over 3 billion people around the world who have little or no access to the good news of Jesus Christ. Many may live their entire lives never hearing about Jesus, not even once. That's why FEBC is focused relentlessly on reaching the unreached and broadcast the gospel in over 150 languages. In faith, you can join us in reaching those billions of people so they will have the opportunity to know that Jesus Christ died on the cross for all of us and will forgive our sins. Learn more at febc.org. That's febc.org.
The Praise and Worship channel from Moody Radio is your place for praise and worship anytime. The best of today's Christian music. Familiar favorites you come back to again and again. All calling you to a place of praise and worship. Listen to the Praise and Worship channel online at praiseandworship.org and anywhere you go this summer on the Moody Radio app, a ministry of Moody Radio.
Keeping your eyes on Jesus in a changing culture can be difficult. Let us help. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio, Cleveland.
7:49. It's a follow-up Friday, so you can talk about whatever you want. We can review some topics again here in a few minutes, but you can certainly suggest topics as well, which Todd and Wycliffe has done. Before we get to that, for everyone who stopped by the table last night at the Lauren Daigle concert at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, I was there. It was awesome. It was so fun to meet you. Yeah, and the staff there was so nice, by the way. I had some wonderful chats with folks working at the, doing security, checking in the stuff. So fun. But yeah, thanks for coming out. Hope you enjoyed the show. Sarah, you enjoyed it.
It was a very good show.
You got to sit and watch your girls worship a little bit. There's something special about that. So what are some other things Todd asked us that the rest of the team can comment on as well here?
Are there other ways that you recommend getting input or advice on marriage things? Other ways meaning outside of counseling. Have any of the other people on the team found settings that are most beneficial to fostering a lasting, happy, content, strong relationship?
What do you think, folks? We've got varying years of marriage experience. You've been married 30 years?
Yeah, right around there. Eastwood caught me off guard.
Do you remember the year?
92.
Let's do the maths.
32.
Yeah, 32.
32 years. You're 8, Lauren? Years?
Oh, yeah. I didn't know what you were asking. Yes, 8 years, yeah.
3 years?
Yes.
And we're almost 21.
Yes.
So how about for you guys? What are some environments that help you foster a healthy marriage outside of counseling?
I say start with Ron.
Because you guys haven't done marriage counseling.
No, we have not.
And that's okay.
And we've not read a marriage book together or some of the pat answers that I would give if you weren't asking specifically about us. I think patience, like I always say this, but I think it's true. Patience on Dana's part. Her first husband was killed in an industrial accident. So I'm her second husband. And I think she's had the realization that I can train him if I put enough effort into this. I'm not going to get rid of him just because he's a moron at this point. And she's been patient and given me a lot of grace. And on my part, having to learn and adapt, that you come in, I got married at age 30. So I'd had a lot of years, 10 or 11 years, whatever, as being a single adult, usually sharing homes with other men. We'd get 4 or 5 guys together.
That sounds horrible.
Well, it was cheaper that way.
That's pretty fun to me.
Yeah.
And so, you kind of just cared for yourself. You didn't have to worry about the house as a whole. Sometimes you did have to take action, but
where have you gotten like marriage advice or input over the years?
Or haven't you?
I don't know that we have for our specific marriage. I've gleaned a lot over the years from listening to Focus on the Family. Some of the other teaching programs have had things on marriage from time to time.
There you go.
Joe and Cindy Farini give a lot of great tips with their My Marriage Matters.
Yeah.
And that's a benefit of the job I work in. I get to hear these things quite often.
But you're also a guy, Ron, who I think is really open to change. And there aren't many people with the level of openness you have. You will regularly come back to the show and go, hey, we talked about this yesterday. I did that.
Yes. It literally happened, this morning? Was that today? Yeah.
And not many people are that quick to self-analyze and then change. Mm-hmm. And that may be the key for you, is that you don't even realize how quickly you do that, and you soak it in. You're studying because you're at work. Mm-hmm. I sometimes forget how much churchy type things we do here. We spend 3 hours a day talking to theologians and talking about life with Christ. And so you soak in a lot more than maybe the average bear. So I think that's a fair answer, Ron.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you.
And the trauma Dana experienced, I'm sure changed her profoundly. Mm-hmm. And usually it's profound change only comes through difficult trauma like that.
Right.
I can't imagine what that was like for her.
It was rough.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Ladies, how do you answer this? What are some places that, outside of counseling, that have helped your marriage?
I will give a pat answer, even though Ron won't.
And you're doing this with your eyebrow?
No, my eyebrow was actually itchy. No, my eyebrow was actually itchy. Eddie and I choose to read one marriage book together a year. You do? Mm-hmm. And so we read them, not like we read out loud together.
I was wondering how you do it.
No, we read separately and then we come back together and share our thoughts together on it. And not all marriage books are equal, or there's not always great stuff in it. There's a lot of repetitive stuff in them, but finding one or two nuggets of things to bring into our marriage to change or to try, it's been really cool and helpful.
I was picturing fireplace, sitting across from each other, taking turns reading paragraphs.
No, read it by ourselves and then come together and talk about
Sparkles in the eyes, kind of. Oh, Eddie, I love you.
Does that
La La Land do you live in?
I know. Yeah, exactly.
We tried to do some couples devotionals?
Yeah, we got a bunch when we got married, and
it just didn't go.
No.
Yeah, Jimmy and I quickly found out that is not us. We tried.
No.
You hear about people that do it. I want to be those people.
It's just, it doesn't work for everybody. Not all devotionals are created equal, and you and your spouse are such different people. I'm not sure that there is one book that is probably going to work for both of you. So something Jimmy and I have both done is we just kind of take stock of the marriages around us, family members, parents. What do we like and not like about those marriages? And then, because our marriage is still pretty fresh, so it's much easier to course correct. But for me, it's just realizing that those marriages, whether I like or don't like them, they were once very fresh too. And so it was a repeating pattern of decades that got them to where they are for good or for bad. And so it's just humility and realizing that, we honestly didn't really have a honeymoon phase, but we've only been married for 3 years. So there is still a lot to learn and a lot to discover. So just realizing that and realizing someday we will be the old married couple. And what do we want that to look like for people around us in the future?
That's good. Being aware of it, that's good.
And what kind of marriage do you want? And I don't want to be the old grouchy couple that everyone's like, oh, don't want to be around us. Yeah. Yeah.
So even verbalizing some of that, it might sound simple, but there's a lot of married couples when you talk to folks like Gary Chapman and Julie Slattery, that they don't talk about their marriage at all. Mm-hmm. They're not doing any analysis of their relationship and how it's going. And I could go into more detail, but I think I'll just leave it there. But that's true. They think that they're living life together, but they're really not analyzing their own relationship. And it sounds like you're just doing some analysis, which is super helpful. Mm-hmm. I do want to go back to the book study, because here's one of the mysteries in my head.
It sounds so formal.
Well,
first of all, it's not a devotional or a book study, but okay.
We've had, occasionally we'll have issues in our lives, and maybe Dari will tell me or Ron will tell me, and they'll be like, hey, what did Sarah think of that? And I'll ask Sarah, and we'll kind of relay information. When I do that with you, like, hey, what did Eddie think about this thing that we were talking about? Mm-hmm. You go, I told him, and he kind of went, huh.
Yeah. He's a man of few words.
And so
once you get him really going.
I'm picturing you both read a chapter, and you get together, and this is how in my head, how it's going to play out. That was a really good point about you should talk about your relationship. And he'd go, yeah. All right.
No, that's not at all.
Let's make coffee. So
Not at all.
Can you help us then? Because I don't think people know how to do that. How do you read a chapter and discuss it when you two don't even talk? So tell us, go.
They talk.
I'm being melodramatic. I'm trying to understand how this works. I need the practical.
He needs to realize people are different than him, and it's hard for Brian.
It is sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, just to combat that, the other night we put the kids to bed and Eddie said, "Oh, I just want to talk about some stuff," and I was like, "Okay," and he probably I'm not kidding you, he probably talked for 45 minutes, and I just sat and listened. It's not that he has nothing to say; it's that when I tell him something about some dramatic thing that happened on the show, he's like, "Oh, that's weird." Because what are you gonna say?
Well, right. But when you're talking about a marriage book, though,
Yeah.
I know he has feelings and thoughts.
Yes, but you're making it seem like you don't.
I'm sorry. That's not what I'm trying to do
Yes.
here.
So
how did two people who are not very verbose discuss a chapter?
It's like, okay, so this is what this chapter's about. Was there anything that stuck out to you in this chapter? Yes, no, and if so, then you just talk about that thing that stuck out to you and why it stuck out to you.
And you're probably, if
We're not
I'm
going line
understanding
by
you right.
line.
Okay, guys, and some people need that level of specificity because somebody might think you really ought to read together out loud, right? And
Well,
you're saying
that's-
you come back.
If that's how it works for you guys, that's fine. That's not what we do. We just read it separately and then come together and talk about the things that stuck out to us, the things that we want to take or try in our marriage. Because you're going to take some stuff and you're going to leave some stuff. So what are the things that you want to try or that stuck out to you? Or how do you see this playing out in our marriage? Because for me, like you said, no, if you're not talking about your marriage, you're not thinking about it, then you're not doing anything. So for me, reading about marriage makes me think about my marriage and makes me analyze it that way because I'm reading about marriage and things that happen and
I see.
Things like that.
So the discussion may not be super long, but the whole process together is what's important. Like the idea that you are analyzing your marriage even though you're not talking about it.
Yes, we're analyzing our marriage. We're looking at it together. We're reading the same information.
That's good.
And so then we can decide what do we want to take for our marriage.
Yeah, poor Sarah. I verbally process, and you need a minute.
Yes.
We're the same.
Yeah.
So are me and Jimmy. I like to talk about things, and he just needs to sit back and think about it, and then he's ready to talk.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like I want to hear how someone else works through that. I've gotten a little better at giving you a minute, a little.
Oh, yeah. And I've also gotten better at listening and then taking that time instead of feeling like I have to respond. Because a lot of times if I start talking right then, I haven't processed it. So I'm just making stuff up.
Yeah. It's a lot of work. It's a good question, Todd. Thank you for that. It spurred a great discussion. What do you want to talk about? It's Follow-Up Friday. And anything can go. Maybe you need some relationship advice of your own, or you've got a dilemma, you've got a question, maybe a news story you saw that we didn't discuss, and you're like, wow, I bet you're scared of talking about that. Or maybe you heard us say something this week you disagree with, agree with, 440-546-2255.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and everywhere with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
Americans may be getting burned out by election news coverage. It's 8:02. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. A new Pew Research Center poll found 62% of those surveyed said they are worn out by coverage of the 2024 presidential campaigns. About 1/3 of the respondents, however, said they like seeing a lot of coverage of the campaign and candidates. Overall, 58% said they have been following the election coverage very or fairly closely. A Summit County man who tried to poison cats with a suspected bowl of antifreeze at a green mobile home park has now learned his sentence. James Genovese has been ordered to spend 3 days at an alternative sentencing center and to make a $1,000 donation to the Summit County Humane Society. And Allegiant Air is announcing a new nonstop flight out of Akron-Canton Airport. The carrier will now be flying from CAK to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Flights will start in the coming week and will be scheduled on Sundays and Thursdays through August 11th. I'll have sports and weather coming up in just a moment.
If you've been thinking about a career in aviation, consider a Bachelor of Science degree in Missionary Aviation Technology from Moody Bible Institute. Flight majors earn an average of 325 flight hours, including over 100 hours of flight experience in high-performance aircraft. You'll be fully trained to get your private, instrument, and commercial pilot certification immediately after graduation. And you'll have a foundation in Bible and avionics technical training. Visit moody.edu/aviation. That's moody.edu/aviation.
After their victory last night, the Dallas Mavericks will now challenge the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals beginning June 6th. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Sunny skies today with high temperatures in the mid-70s. At last check, clear skies, 51 degrees in Cleveland now, 50 degrees in Akron and Canton, 51 in Ashtabula.
It's time for your moron moment.
With summer travel season just around the corner, you'll want to know what medicines you're taking in case you run out while you are on the road. Dr. Andrew Mellon, Chief Medical Officer of SureScripts, recommends carrying a complete list of your pills and a cell phone photo of your meds as well. He says that'll make it a lot easier in case you need more medication or you end up at an urgent care or emergency room on your vacation. He also says to pack extra medication and to put all your pills in a carry-on and not in checked luggage that could go missing. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 8:05. With Moody Radio News, I'm
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
8:08. This is Moody Radio. You're listening to Mornings with Brian. Thanks to all who stopped by to say hello yesterday at our table at the Lauren Daigle concert at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. It was super fun. Some of you got to meet my Sophia, and it was lovely, wasn't it? My little sweet pea. She's
She
the
stood
best.
with you?
Yeah, she sat with me for a while. She likes hanging out with me, she
Cute.
says.
She said,
I can't tell if it's her just being
She
nice
says.
or if she does.
She does.
Because I get pretty flustered in those things. I do
Yeah,
apologize to her a few times.
Literally, it's pretty bad.
Hey.
It's really bad.
What do you describe it for those who don't know?
You did it well. You get flustered.
Yeah.
You're kind of like,
Where do
You're
I
like,
go? What do I
yes,
do?
yes.
What's there? Like, there's a right way and a wrong way to do things in your mind, and you want to do it the right way. When most of the time, just do it.
And I also have a hard time, for some reason, when I'm thinking on the radio, I can think pretty quickly, but in life, I can't. I was laughing with my friend Nancy Kane about this because she's very similar. We're the same Enneagram type.
Mm-hmm.
And we can have these deep thought conversations and then, like, spill our water or, like, just do something silly. Like, she walked into a mirror at an airport. She tells the story, like, she was just so kind of flustered in the airport. There's, those mirrors by the exit. She walked into it and then thought she ran into someone and apologized. But it was herself.
That sounds like something you would do.
That's exactly what I would do.
Not knowing what's going on around you.
She was like, oh, excuse me. Wait. Oh, that's me. I just said excuse me to me. But she's one of the most brilliant people you ever meet. Not saying I'm brilliant, but you know what I mean. It's just this
Like
part
how
of
you
my personality I
deflected
can't
to
fix.
somebody else doing this, so we weren't focused on you being flustered.
No, I get
Change
flustered.
the story.
I had to tell Sophia yesterday numerous times, I'm so sorry. I know I'm not much fun to be with right now. I'm a little just, this is how I
you
would
get
describe
really
it.
stressed.
And she is just like you.
I'll shoot.
Poor
Yeah.
thing.
Sophia's your mini me, so it's good for her to see you in this situations because then she knows what she's like.
I went to the wrong entrance. When I finally got to the right entrance, it was all the volunteers going through. I had 16 things. There's this metal detector. Sophia's like, do I put this on there? I don't know. Do I put this in there? I don't know. I've never been here.
And you tried to leave. You took a loop around the whole place.
I mean, it was just... No one's surprised, especially clearly you.
Yeah, no.
All right, so we did get a call with a topic suggestion here. Daria, hit us with it. What is it?
Yeah, so this person wanted us to talk about what do you do when a friendship is just for a season? Like they move away or you grow apart. And he said, in some ways, that's worse than a death. And do we agree with that? And what do we do with those friendships that aren't there anymore?
Why is moving away a reason to not have a friendship anymore?
Well, we had some close couple friends that time and distance, we couldn't keep it.
I think part of that too is like, at least for me and my ADHD, out of sight, out of mind. Like when I don't have a regular reminder of that friendship, it's hard for me to I have to consciously take the time to go through my text messages.
Interesting.
And be like, okay, today's the day I'm going to respond to things because I just kind of move on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a sentimental guy who loves memory. I think about it a lot. Like I have a couple of friendships that I treasure, and just time and distance and life have made them disappear. And we occasionally are in contact, and when we are, it makes me sad.
Mm-hmm.
Not like it's debilitating sadness, but it's like, oh, I got a couple of friends in Minnesota and one in particular, I just miss this dude. We were as close as brothers, and it can't be anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be. I wish it was. And so when the person says it feels like a death, I think you're right, it does.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to say that you and I, because the Lord, for whatever reason, the Lord has decided we have to move a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That makes it harder.
It does.
Because especially when you become in your 30s and 40s, most people, they have all the friends they ever need in their whole life, and they live in the same place they've always lived. And so they think you're nice, but they don't want to be your friend because they don't have time for you. They've got friends.
Yeah, I had somebody tell me that when we moved to Chicago, and I was complaining about, Carrie from Minneapolis, from our old church.
Okay.
I was talking to her about I'm in this mom's group and I'm just not connecting with them. It's been 8 months and still having a hard time. And she's like, maybe they just don't want any more friends. It's not a you thing. They just don't have the room. And it put it in perspective that for me, that it wasn't a me thing. It just wasn't the right room.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
well, that's good.
And yeah, and that's okay. Find the place that you belong. And so that actually helped me because it wasn't about me, them not wanting me as a friend. It was, they just can't take on any more friends. They don't even know you to not like you. And I was like, oh, okay.
So you're saying be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
But, what about the long-term friendships? You have a couple of friends that you, and by the way, I didn't introduce her if you're just tuning in. It's my wife, Sara. Hi.
Hello.
You have some close friends that you've drifted apart over the years. Does it make you sad when you think about it?
I wish we would have remained closer, but I also cherish the relationship that we have now, too. It's just because it wasn't the same that it was. Like, I was just texting with my friend we met in 6th grade, and I was just texting with her 2 days ago. And it's like, I looked back and it had been 2 months since we had texted last. And before that, it was like 3 years. And so, but I love the time that we do talk. And when we don't, I know it's not a personal thing.
That's a much more healthy way to handle it than me. It's you find a way to be grateful with what you have, even if it's not what it was.
Yeah. Because
Well,
I
sure
can't
is
expect the friendship that we had when we were in high school or middle school or elementary school. Like, that would be weird. Like, I'm not going to go sleep over at her house. I mean, I'm not going to go like, we'd go for rollerblading. Like, we can't do that. So it has to be different. And so it would be weird now to sit on a phone call for 2 hours straight, intense conversation, when really, when you're that young, that's not what your relationship's based off of. You know what I mean? We're doing stuff. So, but...
How have you and Jimmy experienced this, Daria? Because you guys have moved a lot. It has to affect friendship.
It does. So we were in a kind of a unique experience where we're originally from Ohio, moved to Florida, and so I lost touch with a couple of my local friends. And then we made some really good friends in Florida. Then we left and moved back, and now I'm reconnecting with the friends I left in the first place. And it's just, it's really hard. I'm 4 years out from college, and in some ways I'm still kind of adjusting to not having this constant stream of like peers and friends around me. And I am still in contact with a couple of them, but it's different and we're busy. And I used to live with some of them, so I saw them literally all the time. And now, even though we're only half an hour away, I don't see them very often. And I do more than that. And then when we were in Florida, I had probably the tightest knit group of platonic friends I've ever had.
It's special.
It was really special. There were 3 of us. We hung out all the time. And I moved away, and then another one moved away. So now our friend group is spread between Florida, Ohio, and Minnesota. And it's really hard. I miss them a lot. And we try to keep in touch, but like just with proximity and time, you just kind of forget about them sometimes. And it just becomes really hard to be intentional about keeping that relationship.
And as life changes, your capability to be the kind of friend you were changes as well.
Right. And you can only, FaceTime is great, but it's not the same.
Not at all.
So because we've now been here for a year now.
Wow.
Tomorrow will be exactly a year since we moved.
Oh, that's crazy, Daria.
Yeah. It's crazy how fast it's gone. But I think about those 2 specific friendships and go, man, it's been a year since we were all together. And that really makes me sad, and knowing that as time goes on, we're going to continue to drift apart.
Yeah. But I think this is why, and I should know better than this, because my wife's doing a much more healthy job of this than I am, but this is why the Lord's designed it that our heart belongs to Him. Like if our life is organized in the right place, we love Jesus with our heart, soul, mind, and strength. And so we can have a healthier view of the relationships around us because we're not expecting our friends to fulfill this deep longing that we have, that I'm still pining for after 25 years or whatever it's been since that. But I think that's the spiritual thing behind that. It's 8:18, time for a quick break, but more to come here on Mornings with Brian on WCRF. You're welcome to jump in with your comments on this or suggest your own topic, 440-546-2255.
Moody Radio is on the air thanks to support of listeners and Hawkins Sales. They've been serving the electrical industry nationwide for over 30 years. More information about Hawkins Sales is at hawkinssales.com.
God's Word says a lot about music. From creation to the book of Revelation, you'll find songs, lyrics, songwriters, voices, and instruments. This month, join Today in the Word and our author Brian Lee for a devotional titled, Sing to the Lord, Music in the Bible. To get it, download the free app or go to todayintheword.com. todayintheword.com.
According to recent CDC statistics, a 15-week abortion ban, including exceptions, would still allow nearly 98% of abortions, because most abortions are performed before that 15-week mark. That's hard to hear. It's crucial that as Christians, we don't become so discouraged that we abandon the political process. But at the same time, we can't put our hope in politics. Our hope must lie in loving and serving people and transforming lives through the gospel. Roland Warren, president of CareNet, asked Christians to remember that the politics of abortion does not change the morality of what happens in an abortion. Today, embrace the opportunities you have to bring pro-life ministries to your church, support pregnancy care centers and maternity homes, and address the issues that lead to abortions by strengthening family and fatherhood. Get free resources and learn more about the mission of CareNet at care-net.org. care-net.org.
Join the conversation by call or text at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
8:20 WCRF. Father's Day is coming. Father's Day is coming. Everyone's excited. It's the most important day of the year. Rob, don't you laugh. It's so important. Okay, so we got a big package going, a big giveaway, just like we did for moms. It was the moms and
A Mother Like No Other giveaway.
A Mother Like No Other giveaway. This is the Green Eggs and Dad. Why? Because the big prize is the big green egg, all-in-one grill, smoke, barbecue, brick oven combo. It's portable. It grills. It smokes. It dices. It slices. It's the Bassomatic. No, it's not that. It's but it's got a whole bunch of stuff you can have with it. It's got the charcoal in the package. Everything.
Lots of
Plus,
stuff.
we're going to throw in a book bundle for dads with books by Michael Rydelnik, Mike Fabarez, Daniel Henderson. If you want to enter for your chance to win this for the dad in your life, or if you're a dad for yourself, text in DAD to 440-546-2255. DAD to 440-546-2255. I am so happy today because we have folks throwing their topics at us. We love a good topic suggestion on Friday, and we've got Anonymous with one here.
Yes. We've been married 44 years. It's like we're roommates instead of husband and wife. We've run out of things to talk about. We sit for hours in the same room and say nothing. Fortunately, we still sleep in the same room. Most of our married friends sleep in separate rooms. Any suggestions?
I'm sorry that your heart's, it sounds like your heart's hurting, you know? I certainly can come up with something, but if I'll yield to anybody else that has suggestions first.
I mean, I know there are different types of silence, but not all silence is bad. I think there is something special about being able to just sit with someone and just be because you're that comfortable. Silence is only, I mean, obviously you still need to talk to each other and there could be a deeper issue there, but I think learn to be okay with the silence, especially when you've been married for that long, because as someone who's been married for 3 years, I'm sure you do run out of things to talk about. And I think that's, from what I've heard, I think that's normal.
Yeah, but I think when the referring to we are roommates is kind of shows a lack of intimacy.
Yeah.
On a spiritual, personal level.
Yeah, and we've been in phases like that, and it's very lonely, and it's disorienting to be married to someone and living with them
And be lonely. Yeah, it's worse than actually being alone.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Just like when you don't have somebody that you are sharing that deep part of yourself with, like you're lonely because not because of physical proximity, but because of like connection.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's hard to wrap your mind around that feeling because it feels so wrong, right? I'm lonely and I'm married.
Yeah. And I have 5 kids in the house. I mean,
Right.
Yeah. I'm
And
never
so-
alone.
And then I think one of the problems then is when you try to bring it up, not you, but let's just say she tries to bring it up, she may end up saying, we never talk anymore. And then he'll get defensive.
Right.
Or you'll go, why don't you ever talk to me anymore? We used to talk all the time. Like there has to be an approach in which you raise the issue without creating an argument. Because a lot of couples will not even say this. They'll just quietly settle for this reality.
Yeah.
But the first step is you've got to talk about the elephant in the room. I mean, I can't imagine that her spouse would not feel this in some measure.
Well, but
Maybe
I
he
know
doesn't, though. Who knows?
introverts sometimes are fine with that. And so it's not about the situation, but it's about how she's feeling about the situation, or he's feeling about the situation. I can't tell that from the writing.
And you felt this way before. So how would you suggest this person bring it up to their spouse, that they're feeling lonely and like roommates?
I don't know. Like,
it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've had help to do that.
Yeah. Well, and that's where, like, going back to our conversation earlier about a healthy marriage, is there a time when you're supposed to get therapy? Well, that's why you kind of establish that so that it doesn't slowly turn, morph into this, like a lonely marriage. And so get comfortable with sharing how you feel. Because a lot of times it's not necessarily how the marriage dynamic is, but it's your personal dynamic that's affecting it. Like, I know a lot of our communication issues haven't been necessarily because we're just communicating poorly, but it's because I'm communicating different than you are understanding, and you don't understand what I'm trying to say. And so it turns into something else.
Yeah, we
It's not
think
that-
we're being perfectly clear.
Yeah, it's not that anyone's doing anything wrong. It's just not what the other person, the puzzle pieces aren't fitting together.
And that's where I've been surprised by marriage therapy, and in many respects for us has become our marriage counselor is equal parts referee and translator.
Yeah. Yep. She'll say, okay, Brian, you're hearing this, but Sarah's saying this. I think she's trying to say this. And I'll be like, yes. And he's like, oh, that's not what you were communicating. And so, but because we are very different people.
And you didn't say it wrong, and I didn't hear it wrong.
No.
It's just the way we interpret things, and there's nonverbals you can't control.
And I'm learning how to speak your language when I want to make sure that you hear me, and you're learning how to speak my language when you want me to hear you.
Yeah. Yeah, and the simplest way to start would be for this person to go to their spouse and go, I love you, and I want to be closer to you. We've been married so long.
I'm sad. Not you are doing, don't point fingers, but say, I need this. Do those I statements that we all learned in elementary school.
Yeah. And would you come to counseling with me? I'm feeling sad and I want help, because I know it's not all your fault.
Or can we just go on a date or do something? I mean, it can be as simple as instead of watching 2 different shows in different rooms or sitting on your phone, can we pick a show to watch together? Like, I mean, just watching a show together, it's not a marriage book, but at least you have something in common that you can discuss and look forward to together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it can be little things like that.
You and Dana do that.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. I was curious, as they say they're sitting in silence, what are they actually doing? Are they each looking at their phone and one is wishing, boy, I wish they would talk to me. And the other is so caught up in all the events of what their friends are doing, they don't notice the passing time. Are they both sitting watching TV? Are they both reading books? There's any number of things they might be doing during this silence.
Mm-hmm.
That's good point. Because, Sarah and I work really hard to find shows that we both like, and we'll quit shows quickly if we don't both like them.
Yeah.
And we keep going because we want to spend that time together, and there is something about us both enjoying it and chatting about it that feels close, intimate. I don't know.
Well, we're experiencing the same thing together.
Yeah.
And so, like, when you or I are on our phone, sometimes it's just like we're multitasking while we're watching the show. Sometimes it's because we're disconnected from the show. And I've leaned over to you and been like, do you want us to turn off the show? You look like you're preoccupied. And you're like, oh, no, I'm sorry. And I'm like, okay, because I want to have this
That's good.
similar experience with you. Like, yeah, we're not talking, but I want to have this experience and continue on this. And
I like how you frame that. It's
so,
good. And I do know we'll never be watching a show together about outer space.
I hate shows about outer space.
They're spooky.
We're never going to be in outer space
they give
together.
me so much anxiety.
Yeah, they're very spooky.
I'd love to watch an
Just
outer space movie,
floating in
Ron.
outer space. No.
You'll have to come to my house to watch it then.
I watch them all alone. If there's outer space, I just skip it and watch it alone.
Yeah, Eddie watches his Viking shows without me. I'm not watching that.
Jimmy loves the sci-fi shows. Like, not my thing.
Do you guys prioritize finding shows together?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we'll save them. Like, we don't watch it. You don't move on without the other one unless.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard sometimes to find a show, right? Or is that
It
just
is.
us?
It is very hard. No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
I don't
don't-
like Viking shows.
I mean, we don't watch a lot of TV in general, but we certainly don't watch it together. Movie night is kind of our thing, but we really struggle to find movies we both like because I'm a film critic at heart.
Oh, that's annoying. Sorry.
No, it is annoying. I can admit it's annoying.
Well, okay, so I have to ask you this too, because this may be different for this individual, because we're all talking about sharing the bonding of Netflix together or something, right? You don't watch much TV, you love to read.
Yeah.
So what does time together for you and Jimmy look like? He's gardening,
Yeah.
you're reading? I don't get how that fits.
So we like to go on hikes together.
Oh.
That's kind of our thing. We also, Jimmy's really into video games and I'm not as much, but there are like a couple of games of his that I've picked out. Like these are ones I'm okay playing. we like to play Mario Kart together.
Oh,
That's date night
It's a great
sometimes.
game.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great game.
It is.
I think there was one night you were texting our group and you said something like, "Oh, I'm watching Eddie play some weird game with flashing lights."
Oh, yeah. I was texting you and Scott and Maureen Lessing. Yeah, Maureen was asking like what we were doing, and I was like, "Oh, I'm just sitting in the same room while he plays his weird flashy games." I was like, bright lights.
But why do you put up with that?
Because we're in the same space.
That sounded harsh,
Yeah,
but
I know.
I'm trying to get to its togetherness somehow.
Yeah. I didn't have like anything I was like, wanting to do or discuss, just being in the same space together. I can laugh at when he laughs at his games.
So
I
you're
laugh
laughing.
at him while he laughs at his games.
there it is.
You and I will do that. We'll sit out on the porch and both be on our phones and sending each other memes
Yeah.
and reels and stuff and laughing. You're like, oh, you have to look at this. Or I'm like, what are you laughing at? What's so funny? Like, and interacting with each other that way. And
Well, and that's where I think we've learned to. We haven't talked about this, but for this couple, it might even take sitting together in a different place.
That's a good idea.
Like Sarah and I have a screened-in porch we can only use for certain months of the year. There's something about going out on that screened-in porch that makes us start talking to each other.
That's sweet.
well, like
I don't know what it is. We don't do that in the living room.
And I can go out there and just sit and stare and listen to the birds and listen to the bugs, but I can't just sit in my living room.
Because the kids will bother us.
And-
It's the door we can close. That's
or it's
what
like
it is.
when you're
No.
inside, there's so many things you could do. You're like, I
Yeah.
could start the dishes. I could start the laundry. There's just so much stuff to do inside.
Yeah.
I think that when you're outside too, that's like a cue for this is designated unplug time.
Yeah.
Which is, we all need more of that just personally, regardless of what our marriages are like.
Right.
And this reminds me too of there was a married couple in a marriage class we were in who he didn't pray with her the way she wanted to pray with him. And so they didn't pray together and she was mad about it. Where like, for example, maybe this particular person writing to us is like, I want to go on a walk to be together, hike like Daria, but he doesn't want to. You could be mad about that or just come up with something else. I don't know. He maybe doesn't want to go on a walk. So sit outside together. Maybe he'll sit with you outside and that will be a different place, a different experience. Remember that couple where she wanted to pray for a real long time, he wanted to pray short, and it was like, really? This is a problem for you guys? Yeah, no, she insisted that he pray for a long time.
But I think that comes back to what you said earlier, Lauren, about there's a bigger issue, like about the cup on the counter. Like, it's not about the praying length. It's about the lack of respect and honor and discussion with each other on there's no right way. It's different, and we have to come together. Like,
it's my wife.
Yeah.
Like all these
She
little
married me.
things.
Can you believe
I
this?
know.
I
Very
still can't
smart
believe it.
woman. I'm a very smart woman.
I know. I still can't even believe you married me. Wow. It's my wife, Sarah, here on Follow Up Friday. It's 8:32. We're up against a quick break. We got more time for you. Your topic suggestions, your questions and comments, your follow-up items, 440-546-2255.
Welcome to today's encouragement from Our Daily Bread. Our reading, titled Mercy Through Pizza, was written by Karen Huang. The invitation for dinner from my church leader, Harold, and his wife, Pam, warmed my heart, but also made me nervous. I'd joined a college Bible study group that taught ideas that contradicted some of the teachings in the Bible. Over pizza, they shared about their family and asked about mine. They listened as I talked about homework and the guy I had a crush on. Only later did they gently caution me about the group I was attending and explain what was wrong with its teachings. Their warning took me away from the lies presented in the Bible study and close to the truths of Scripture. In his letter, Jude uses strong language about false teachers, urging believers to contend for the faith. He reminded them that in the last times there will be scoffers who divide you and do not have the Spirit. However, Jude also calls on believers to be merciful to those who doubt, by coming alongside them, showing compassion without compromising the truth. Harold and Pam knew I wasn't firmly grounded in my faith, but instead of judging me, they first offered their friendship and then their wisdom. May God give us this same love and patience, using wisdom and compassion as we interact with those who have doubts. Today's encouragement was provided by Our Daily Bread Ministries.
Did you know the average person walks nearly 2,000 miles a year? Now think about the millions of children around the world who risk disease and miss out on opportunities simply because they walk those 2,000 miles without a decent pair of shoes. For the past 25 years, Buckner Shoes for Orphan Souls has provided more than 5 million pairs of shoes to kids in some of the most vulnerable communities in the world. That's over 5 million opportunities to put a smile on the face of a child and show God's love to boys and girls living in desperate situations. Many times, those shoes introduce families to Christ-centered programs, helping them rise above poverty and achieve their God-given potential. I'm Rob West, inviting you to provide shoes and share the love of Christ with children around the world and here in the United States. Find out how you can make an impact at GiveShoesToday.org. That's GiveShoesToday.org.
They say family knows you best. Here's Brian's older brother with a message for you.
Does it seem like your son or daughter will just not stop talking? My little brother is proof that not all hope is lost.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
It is a Friday. It's a follow-up Friday here on WCRF. It's been a great week of programming here, and we're trying to see what you want to talk about as we wrap up a show. We've got about 20 minutes left. Our Friday song, Cleveland's own Jason Champion, Are You Ready? Coming up right before 9 o'clock. My lovely wife, Sara, here throughout the entire program.
Hi.
Extra lovely today. Thanks for getting up early after only how many hours of sleep did you get?
It's early. 4?
Yeah, she partied with
3?
Lauren Daigle and a couple thousand other people until midnight.
I think they said 6,000.
Oh, my
Wow.
word.
It's pretty good.
I mean, I didn't count people, but so I'm just going to take their word
great.
from it.
I
But
actually heard that from staff. It was right around there. Mhm.
Yeah, it was a big crowd and traffic coming out of Cleveland and then the hour drive home.
You're a
with
trooper.
2 teenage girls that were cranky. It was fun.
It sounds horrible, doesn't
Teenage
it?
girls are never cranky.
And if you're
No.
listening, yeah,
I'm like, you guys
okay.
have to fight when we have this great worship song on the radio? Like, come on. There's just something. No, they were just overly tired and long days and sisters.
I get like that when I'm overstimulated too. I'm tired to boot.
Yeah. I did stop and get them chips at a gas station.
Did that help?
Yeah. Well, when one of the girls said, you need to get her some food, and the other one was like, why would you say that? That's so offensive. I'm like, yeah, you guys need food.
Someone's hangry.
Somebody's angry.
See, Lauren, you didn't have that with your sisters because they're so much older than you.
Yeah, they're a lot older than me.
Yeah.
They had that together, my older 2 sisters, but not me.
All right, so we got another topic/question someone wanted to bring up. What do you have?
I don't remember which day it was, but the subject came up about somebody knowing or being an expert on a particular subject and a family member didn't quite believe them. I might be getting it a little wrong, but I loved the topic. That's exactly what happens at my family functions. And there are times I'll be talking about my job and then somebody in my family is telling me how things really were. And I've just had, basically, she just had to learn to drop it. I think that was the conversation about disagreement.
Yeah.
Yep. Psychology Today did a piece called Why Disagreement is a Stubborn Enemy of Listening. And there was an anecdote. I won't read the whole thing over again, but this guy was describing how, he's got some expertise in a particular subject, and he goes to a family meal with, like Cousin Eddie. Sorry, Lauren. With Cousin Eddie, and Cousin Eddie suddenly starts declaring ridiculous things about his expertise. Probably trying to start a conversation. And he shut his mind down and got angry. And they've argued for the meal. And he went home feeling bad, and his wife was embarrassed.
Yeah, wasn't his wife like, you kind of made a fool of yourself there?
Yes.
Because they argued. He just kept arguing. He was like doubling down.
Yeah, the quote, they get in the car, she goes, quote, "You sounded pretty ignorant tonight." Thank you, honey.
I love, though, that they have that kind of relationship that she can just call him out on it.
Yes,
That
that's a
is-
sign of a healthy marriage.
We all need someone, preferably our spouse, but someone like that in our lives.
I've been working on receiving that kind of thing in recent years. I have a long way to go.
No, you've done very good at working on that, but I like to poke you now when I know that you, like, if you went off the rails a little bit, I like to remind you of that jokingly, lovingly.
Well, I have a couple of women that I work with that they also like to put up those guardrails for me.
Yeah. That's good.
Yes.
They have nothing to say because they do. My thought on this particular thing is, she said, I've learned to drop it. Okay. I'm with you on that. But I don't think necessarily the point of the article was you got to learn to drop it. The point of the article was you've got to learn how to be curious.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a totally different thing, because dropping it is a different kind of closing your mind and shutting it out. What you're saying to yourself is, well, this person's an idiot and I'm not going to fight with them. And you just smile. Yeah. And you think to yourself, they don't know what they're talking about, but I'll be pleasant because I love Jesus. Now, you may not do that, individual who wrote that. I'm not saying that, but I've done that. So I'm just saying it happens that way. You genuinely, as this guy says, have to develop a level of curiosity where you say, maybe they have a point I haven't considered. What if I tried to find out what their point was and really understand it? That's hard.
Yeah, we see this a lot with Christians in general. Sometimes people, they might still be wrong, but they might have valid reasons for believing what they believe. And you need to learn to understand those if you want to try to sway them for the gospel.
Yeah, that's hard.
Or even understand those to understand them. And especially when it comes to family members or close friends, like, if you just drop it, you are not investing in that relationship. if you are curious and listening to where they're coming from, their perspective, they could be completely wrong. Somebody could say that the sky is green all the time. Yes, that's not accurate. So figure out why. You know, why are they saying that? What's behind it? What's the story behind it? What in the past led them to believe that? And then you understand them and can have a closer relationship with them.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the hardest one, right? Like if you know objectively in your mind a statement they made is false, it's so hard to get past but there's a story behind that, getting to the false answer that might help you make them feel valued and understand their story.
Yeah.
And then you might even realize that even though it's a false answer, it's there. You get it. You can give some empathy and sympathy is what you're saying. Yeah, that's so hard though.
It is.
I'm not good at that. I'll raise my hand. Is anyone? Ron's probably good at it. He's good at everything. You are good at that, aren't you?
I need to put my mind to it. You know, my first reaction a lot of times is to see the glaring error in their comment and be like, no, that's not true. The sky is blue. It is not green. Maybe they've got some kind of color blindness, and to them it is green. And me arguing with it won't change that.
And see, Lauren and I struggle in a similar way with this, where if we're in a similar situation experiencing this kind of thing, we're both texting each other immediately.
Yeah.
Or you have a couple of tells when you're like, no. Like when you're thinking to yourself, wrong. Like I can watch you and see that you're displaying that. Is this something you're working on, or maybe I'm projecting onto you one of my struggles?
No, I think I struggle with that. It's hard for me to be curious about why someone thinks the way that they think when I think it's wrong.
It's hard to be curious. Sarah, you're good at that. Why are you so good at that? What is it about you? With our kids in particular.
I want to understand people. And I also want, we've experienced a lot of different people that have different experiences in their past that led them to where they are now. And they're interesting. And so it's like, okay. But yeah, I think you've helped me get to that point too.
You want to explain more about that?
Well, even our marriage, but even our marriage counselor will work with that's her reality. That's your reality. And then there's what actually happened, because we view things from our personal lens. And our personal lens is all of our experiences up until then, our faith and everything. And so you have to understand somebody where they came from to understand their perspective.
I don't know if you'd agree with this, but for us, when the Lord called us, for whatever reason, to live on the south side of Chicago in a community that was totally different than us culturally and ethnically, it was an African-American community, that's where I learned that lesson. People were thinking differently than me in that community because of their story.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember with Poppy, you know him, our kids refer to them as Grandma and Grandpa, right?
Grandma and Poppy, yeah.
Grandma and Poppy, yeah. And I remember there was a particular day where I listened to him speak a little bit about some political issues I disagree with. And I had to grapple with the idea that he loves Jesus more than me, unquestionably, knows the scriptures better than me, and reached a totally different conclusion about life and society. And I had to go, his story matters.
Yeah.
I've got to listen to this.
Well, and, we've wrestled with even guardians of our kids, or who we want to have influence, in the church with our children. There's many people that we totally would not make the same choices and completely disagree with, but we understand their heart and we know that they would have the best interest of our children or our family. And so we trust them. I mean, there was a few times where we would just be like, yeah, they do things totally differently, but they love Jesus, they love our children, and take them. Do what you're going to do. And yeah.
It's good. 8:48, time for a quick break. We got a little bit more left, plus our Friday song on Mornings with Brian, WCRF.
Moody Radio is thankful for support from Epic Studios. This summer, believers nationwide will join the Million Souls campaign, bringing unsaved family and friends to see the new movie, The Firing Squad, the true story of prisoners who find faith in the face of execution and transform their prison in the process. At the movie's conclusion, co-star Kevin Sorbo comes on screen to lead the theater in a prayer of commitment to Jesus. More information on tickets is available at firingsquadfilm.com.
Author Becky Beresford believed what she now calls culture's lies, that a woman can do it all if she just believes in herself to find the power to succeed. It left her tired and frustrated with self-dependence. In her book, She Believed He Could, So She Did, Becky shares her growth from believe in yourself to believe in your God, from follow your heart to follow your king. She believed he could, so she did. Available now at moodybooks.org.
The Every Woman's Bible is a study Bible for the heart and mind. Engaging study notes and devotionals address topics relevant to women with cultural, historical, and literary clarity and context to gain greater understanding. Over 100 Every Woman's Bible scholars, writers, and contributors, all women from around the world, invite you into a global community. Begin your journey today at everywomansbible.com. Tyndale's best-selling Every Man's Bible is also available at tyndale.com.
Good morning, Cleveland. Thanks for choosing us to help you start your day. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
850 WCRF, Mornings with Brian, 440-546-2255. We're realizing from our daughter, she texted us in the midst of an earlier conversation, so it's follow-up Friday. She made a great point. We praised her for it, and she, what did she say? She was kind of like, I wish you would have said that on the air.
Yeah, she just texted and said, I was hoping you would share my opinion, LOL. But I want, yeah.
You guys got in trouble.
I like talking too much.
Our daughter,
and I have an opinion.
Our daughter made a great point about friendship, if we could follow up on that.
Yeah. About friendships that are, you've drifted apart.
Correct.
Over time. Mm-hmm.
She said, sometimes our friendships with people that only last a season aren't about us at all, but about how God needed us to be in that person's life for that time, for them, and to love them and support them. We always need to appreciate the time we have had with people and the way we've helped each other grow in the time that we did have, not focus on the fact that we don't have it anymore.
Well said.
Very wise 18-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the way this is going to work out is we'll get home and tell her we shared it, and she'll say, well, I wasn't listening then.
She can watch it back on the live stream.
Yes.
No, it's very true. I have a good friend who had similar wisdom from a daughter where he had a really bad season of life, and was like, I don't know why the Lord did that.
Mm.
And his daughter was like, well, maybe it wasn't about you. Maybe it was for somebody else. Maybe it was for these people, that the Lord was using you in your difficult circumstance to minister to them.
Mm.
It's true.
Humbling to get wise words from your children.
You wait, pretty soon, it won't just be Wanold Eastwood, the Wanold.
Yeah.
It'll be profound advice.
Wanold Eastwood.
That kid's voice is so cute.
You have any other Trey in there?
No.
I sent one to you the other day, Brian, of him calling me Queen. Brilliant.
Stop.
He did. He said, hello, Queen.
Oh, bet that makes you feel good.
Oh, yeah.
Did you teach that?
No, I didn't. We were just sitting on the porch and he started saying it to me. I was like, what did you just say? Hello, Queen.
What does he call Eddie? Hopefully it's not Jester or something.
No, he didn't say anything like that to him.
Did you say you had like one of those like hair clips in your hair and he said, Mommy, are you a princess?
Yes. Yeah,
like a banana clip thing or whatever. What are they called?
Banana clip?
I don't know what they're called.
Claw clip.
Wasn't that a thing, a banana clip from a long time
in
ago?
In the 80s.
Well, you know.
Yeah, anytime there's anyone in a skirt or a dress, he will proclaim loudly to me, Mommy, is she a princess?
Oh.
So we were at Walmart and a woman in front of us was wearing a dress and he's like shouted, Mommy, is she a princess? And I said, maybe. Maybe she is.
Do you think part of that is you're just not a dress gal?
I was just going to say, it's because it's just only special occasions.
Exactly.
You're a sweatpants girl?
Yeah.
Did he see you all dressed up for the City Mission Gala we went to?
Yeah, that one, and there was something else that I wore a dress to. Maybe it was a wedding or something.
What did he do?
And he asked if I was a princess.
Aww.
And he said, Mommy, you're a princess, and then hugged me.
You got a sweet kid there.
He is sweet.
That reminds me of it just came up a little while ago on Facebook memory, but it was when I got all ready to go on a date with you, and I think it was, I don't know which boy it was, but he was like, oh, you look like an old lady trying to be pretty. But if you understand this kid, like, he didn't mean it like horrible.
That's a classic kid compliment.
Yep.
Who did this? What? I don't remember the story. I need to talk to this child. Don't say that to your mother.
You'll know which one it is. You know which boy it is.
You don't say that to my wife.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, another memory came up just recently was you and I went on a date, and then another one of our sons wanted to take me on a date, but he required that I change into a dress before our date.
Oh.
Because I didn't wear a dress to my date to breakfast.
Couldn't be seen with you like that.
I know. Hey, he was 3 and he wore a sport coat on the date too.
Oh,
It was
that's
Starbucks.
adorable.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, I know who it is.
That's so cute.
I know who we're talking about. My daughter's hassling me because one of them, I have a profile picture on like our phones, you know, when you can put a picture on someone, that it's me and her on a daddy-daughter date like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't let them grow up on my phone. Oh, it's sweet. Those were fun memories. Look at you. You have any more memories you want to share?
No.
Okay. 440-546-2255 is a number for Follow-Up Friday. We're almost out of time, but we do have time to celebrate before we sign off. A few more quick things to do, but it's Friday song time here at Cleveland's own Jason Champion. Every Friday we play this song. You might be thinking, how'd you start this tradition? I have no idea. Do you? I think we just played it. It was fun.
Yeah, it was part of our rotation, and then we just said, let's do this every week.
There it is. Here we go.
Are you ready? It's almost time. Oh, he's coming back, y'all, like a thief in the night. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Oh, now. It may be morning, night, or noon. I don't know, but it's gonna be soon. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? And when we all get to heaven, that's the day when we'll be shouting. Oh, that's the day when that we're gonna be so glad. Oh, we were ready. Are you ready? Are you ready? Listen, do you know him as your King, Lord and Savior of everything? Are you ready? 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 When we all get up to heaven, that's the day when we'll all be shouting. 'Cause we'll be so glad, oh, so glad we were ready. Are you ready? Are you ready? I can't wait for that day. No more trouble, it's all gone away. I can't wait to see my Savior's face. Are you ready? Are you ready? Would your soul be lost if he came back? Got my bags all ready, 'cause I don't wanna be late. On that day, I just wanna be ready on that day. Oh, be ready. Oh, be ready. Oh, be ready. And oh, be ready. Oh, be ready. Oh, be ready. Oh, when it cracks the sky. Oh, will we meet in the great Dahlen? I like that.
8:58. Don't forget here, before you get to the weekend, you've got to text in our keyword for our dad contest.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we've got the Green Eggs and Dad contest going where you could win the egg. It's the big green egg. It's an all-in-one grill, smoker, barbecue, brick oven combo. And you get all the things that come with it. You can smoke the things. You can
barbecue. You can make a pizza.
Yeah, there's a picture of the guy making the pizza. I don't get it, but you do it.
I get a lot of ads now for the green egg because of this. All of my ads on social media is the big green egg.
They're listening.
They were listening to me, and they listened to me talk about pizza. Now I get a pizza ad too.
So
make a pizza. Enter to win.
And tell us how it went. So, but first you have to enter for your chance to win. Text DAD to 440-546-2255. DAD. 440-546-2255. Special thanks to my amazing world's greatest wife, Sara, for coming in today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Thanks for getting up so early.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You could have taken a pass today and you
You
didn't.
could have.
That's okay. I took the day off of work, so I'm going to go home and take a nap.
Oh,
Brian does that every day, even though he works.
Mm-hmm.
I know. Usually I go straight to work and work till 6 o'clock on Fridays after I'm on air, and he's like, "Oh, I took a nap. I'm tired."
Yeah, it's tough being me. Who laughed?
Ron.
All right, we got to get out of here. It's time for JD.